Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Does my mic sound okay?
Yeah, sounds fine.
Great. Thank you.
I have my poster.
Excellent. Hold it up. Where are you from, Paul?
Hi, Desiree. I'm from England, from Castleford in Yorkshire, in England. And would you like me to say a little bit about how I became involved?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, back in 2007, when Aubrey wrote his book, Ending Aging, I became aware of Aubrey and his work through I was living in Spain at the time, and I became aware that this work was going on. And Aubrey gave me a copy of his book, and being a songwriter, I decided one of the ways I could possibly help was to try and organize a concert of some kind. So I had the idea to write a song called Ending Aging, and use that as the basis to try and promote the work amongst major artists, and try and organise some kind of major events that would generate money for the cause.
Can you play a little bit of your song?
Yes, I can. It's like I told you, it's called Ending Aging. Just bear with me a second.
Absolutely.
Can you still hear me okay?
We hear you loud and clear.
Okay, that's great. Okay, the song's called Ending Aging. God was waiting, then orchestrating spirits born. Universe explosion, planets in motion around the sun. Nature's working, her magic performing, life's begun, and time takes by. Creatures living, growing, then dying all day long. Genes keep moving, species forming, generations. Hearts are beating during lives that are fleeting. What can be done? Hoping, believing. Ending aging. What's that you say? Ending aging. Oh no, it's not a game to play. Ending aging, it's something we must. Ending aging, we're serious. There are theories forming in laboratories, finding clues and leads. And science is working solutions, seeking to every aging disease. We must keep busy, it's not so easy. The resident in on cash. Concerts bringing the people singing to the bash, and now we're ending aging. What's that you say? Ending aging. Oh no, it's not a game to play. Ending aging. it's something we must. Ending aging, we're serious. And now we're ending aging. What's that you say? Ending aging. No, it's not a game to play. Ending aging, it's something we must. Ending aging, we're serious. Ending aging. What's that you say? Ending aging. Oh no, it's not a game to play. Ending aging, yes, it's something we must. Ending aging, we're serious. Serious. We're serious, aren't we? Serious about solving aging. There you go. Did you get that?
Got it. Thank you. That was great.
Good
Thank you
job.
very much. Thank you.
Hey, Roland, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. You have a sign to hold up?
Yep.
Excellent.
I just posted it on Facebook too, outside.
Beautiful. Can you tell us why you support Indefinite Life Extension?
Yes, I support.
Did you get that?
Got it. Thank you.
Good job. That was really good. Very good lyrics.
Thank you.
Good. How are you?
Good.
Oh wow, I'm getting like this weird reverb. Oh, I know, because I'm playing it in the other. Okay, I get it. I had the YouTube link open too.
There
I was
you go.
getting both
Like,
of them.
you're going back in time there for a second.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to hear why I support this? It's because, man, I don't like when people are forced to die against their will, involuntarily. I personally don't want to die, and I don't think anyone should be forced to die because, I mean, life is so important, right? Life is all we have, right? As individuals, we each have a life. And if you lose your life, you've lost everything you've ever had. And it's just the greatest tragedy in the world. And that's not even to mention the suffering that aging causes. But it's just the death, the losing your life. That's just, to me, that's just a tragedy that makes me angry. It's the worst problem in the world. Like Aubrey de Grey says, aging is the greatest problem we all face. It's a nightmare.
What do you say to people who tell you that they don't think that life extension is feasible?
I say that they don't know the future. So how could anyone say that it's impossible, or, when the future is an unknown, right? So none of us know what's going to happen. So technology changes. Like, things have changed throughout history, right? There was a time we couldn't fly, and there was times people said, well, that's impossible. We're never going to fly. We're never going to go to the moon, all these things. And look what happened. And so there's just the evolution of humanity. we have to have faith that we can evolve and we can keep on progressing, you know, forever. It's just, there's no limit to how far we can go and what we can do with science and technology and just improve our lives. And to cure aging, that's just the most basic thing. I mean, that's just the start of what is to come. But we need to do that to see how great the future is going to be. You know, we need to. Otherwise, we're gonna be nothing. We're gonna be in the ground, and it sucks.
What do you say to people who say, well, I don't want to live forever. There's nothing, you know, I want to, you know, have a finite ending. I don't know what I would do. What would you do?
You mean, wait, what would I do to what? You mean if I got to live forever?
Yeah. Or we'll even give you 1,000 years. What would you do with all that time?
Oh my gosh. I just have so many just artistic projects I want to do. Like, I want to make movies. I mean, there's way too many things that I have to do that I would want to do that I can't do in just a 100-year time span or even a 1,000,000-year time span. I just there's so many creative projects. Like, I would want to write books, fiction books, and make movies, all kinds of just creative stuff. I like creativity. I like artistic things. So yeah, just meeting people. I mean, there's just too many people that I would never get to meet them. It's just unlimited, right? And how many cool things we could do if we got to live indefinitely. So.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you, Ron. I'm going to move on to Fabian. Hi, Fabian. Are you there? Fabian? I think we lost Fabian. Next, how about Jacob?
Oh, yeah, hi.
Hi, Jacob. How are you doing?
Fine. What about you?
I am good. Do you have a sign to hold up?
No, actually, I joined all of this event by accident. I just saw the Facebook post and actually have nothing to say. I guess I just want some YouTube time and, I don't know, listen to all the stuff that other people have to say here.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
All right. We also have Siddhartha, I think. Siddhartha is getting plugged in. So we've got Jacob and Rowan who have a good connection. Do either of you have something to say? Siddhartha's going to be right there. Do either of you have something else that you wanted to add? Rowan or Jacob?
I should post this link right now to the Eternal Life fan club, huh?
There you go. Perfect.
I posted it yesterday. I didn't post the links today. Let me do that. What do I want to say? Just that this is so important. Just think about, just think about what it would be like to not exist. I mean, you wouldn't get to have any more fun.
Yes, death is no fun at all.
So, and just think about it's the greatest humanitarian. I think the humanitarian aspect of this should be emphasized because you're saving more lives. If we cure aging, you're going to save more lives than where any other cause. Aging kills more people than anything else. And so if you just think about that, it is the world's most important problem.
Yes, it is. Thank you. And I think we have Siddhartha back. Hi, Siddhartha. How are you doing?
Hey, hi. What may I? You are from Movement for Life Extension?
Yes, we are. You have a
Okay.
sign to
Your
hold up?
good name? May I know your good name?
My good name is Desiree, but I won't tell you my bad name.
Yeah, sure. Hi. So this is Siddhartha. I am from India. It's very fortunate to join this meeting, and I was just about to post pictures, but I saw the video link, so I thought, okay, why not do the video rather than uh, uh, along with the picture. So I have this poster with me. It's good to be alive.
Excellent.
I have this poster with me. Is it movement for indefinite life extension? I have other posters with me. Fight aging. I have one more poster. Maximum Life Foundation. And this poster. So basically, I'm just a BTech graduate. But I have been working. I was in Australia for 2 years. I was doing research on gravitational wave physics, and I'm just interested in this topic society. So there is one more person from India. He is a very good programmer. So he has a website for India Future Society, and we are trying to promote these ideas of life extension and longevity since last 2 years. 2013, we have been organizing the longevity day in 2013, 2014. This year we organized the future day for the first time. We really want to promote these ideas in India. What we want to do is we want to create awareness, and whenever we get opportunity, we want public to know about this idea. We want important peoples to know about this idea so that uh, somebody can we can popularize these ideas in India. And it is still a lot of institutes, they don't know about these things in India. Like there are many premier institutes in India, but if you will say, do you know about life extension, and do you know about longevity, they don't know about it. But it is so important. There are so many important groups all over the world, in US and all over. But so people should know about this topic. And one of the main reason I am interested in this is not just for me, but for everybody, that living longer is beneficial. Whether even if earthworm is living longer by 2 days or 2 weeks, that is good for him, good for that insect. So it's good for humans as well. So whenever this is this is a realistic topic, then it will be really good for all the people. I mean, like Facebook is just a website, but when it exists, a lot of people are using it, and billions of people are getting it was just idea of 2 3 people. And similarly, longevity is a similar topic. Like 2 3 people, or like a group of 10 15, know the importance. But when it will be when it will be realized, then all over the world it will be uh, people will know about it. There are many, I think, a lot of objections in terms of ethics and those things, that like whether people should live longer or should not live. So those are I just um, you know uh, like if you want to do life extension using this gene therapy, so there are some issues of ethics and other propagandas, that people don't want you to live longer. But I think it's I mean it's a really good topic. It's a really good thing which should happen to humans or even the animals. Like, let's say if you have a pet, and if you want him or her to live longer, like a dog or a cat, then it's a good thing. So yeah. And the fact that so many people are engaged in this topic from all over the world, like this group of movement for indefinite life extension, it has more than 4,000 people uh, likes. So I think it's very active. 283 people have listed as going, and many are active members. So I think this topic will gain popularity, and um, it will be realistic in next 2 3 years, 5 years. I am just so I have been reading, I have um, been following this topic, and yeah, I am really interested, and I'm doing whatever I can from India. So whenever I'm getting chance, whenever I'm getting chance to talk to public, media, students, government, I'm doing that to for this topic to become realistic, because it's very interesting. I mean, who will not like to live for like 1,000 years, 2,000 years? So maybe
Right.
if we have ideas for like extending life for 10 years, 20 years, we can, like accelerate it. You know what I mean? It more, maybe it will not be a linear growth. Maybe we can accelerate that. Um,
Um,
we can make people live longer. So
uh,
there are so many things one can do if you are living
Absolutely.
longer.
uh,
You
Absolutely.
have more things to study. You have more friends. You have a more opportunity to explore not this earth. You can explore other places around the universe. I mean, first of all, our solar system. So whatever the dreams the humans have, they it will become realistic, by this project. So I think we will start by 1 or 2 years. I think then only it will be, we can do it for more years.
but I'd like to, and
Hi,
so you
Matthew.
said 2,000. Oh, hi. So, so you said 2,000 years. Bender said anything less than immortality is a complete waste of time. So, um, I mean, 2,000 years, you accumulate all that information, and then you let your brain get destroyed after 2,000 years. I don't really see why not persist beyond that point.
I completely agree with that. I second that point. Yeah, what is the point of even? I thought to myself, what's the point of living for even 1,000,000 years if you eventually die and it all ceases to exist? It seems to me that the only thing that even matters is to live forever.
Exactly. Thank you.
May I?
Well, I mean, like, let's say if you are studying masters MBA in, you are studying MBA, you can have thousands of degrees. You can have more than you can have more than one home. You can have you will have more opportunity to explore. I mean, it's just interest. I mean, it there are a lot of negative points as well, but it depends on how your view is, how bored you are with life, or how interested you are in life. I mean, if you have people to live with, I would do it. If you are by just yourself, it's not worth doing it.
At a certain point, I mean, if you're living for 1,000,000 years, do you essentially become like a creator? Would you be able to amass so much knowledge and so much information, especially if you're living with, millions of other people who have also lived 1,000,000 years? Would you become God or a God or God-like?
Correct. I mean, like all the things we are able to do now, like this video conferencing, inviting thousands of peoples. Maybe we can invite billions of people if we are advanced technologically. Maybe we will be able to create a conference for like the entire solar system at once, and you know,
Okay.
like the scale will increase, the intensity of the subject will increase. So it's just numbers, but it's easy to talk about it. It's easy to talk about many things, but it's difficult to actually do it. But it's good, people, there are people who are interested, and as so many people are coming forward for this from around the world, not just from India or California, from Russia. And like I met Elias Tambler, Dr. Elias Tambler. He just wrote a book on history of life extension. It's a really good book. I also uh, um, I wrote an Amazon review for that book. But you know it's really good that there are extensive research on this topic, not just uh, just talking like, okay, I want to live long. the, uh, you know for anything to get substantiated, you need real hardcore research to go into it. So it's good
Absolutely.
this field has that hardcore research community who
Absolutely.
want to do it. Like
Absolutely.
there is in US there is this Palo Alto longevity prize. So many people who are not even in this topic, not even a part of the longevity, they are like, there are entrepreneurs, businessmen, because everybody like, do you want to live long? Yes, I want to live long. So people join this subject.
Yes,
So
they
it's
do.
good. I mean, it's not just, it's like becoming a popular science. It's not just a science anymore. Popular science, I guess.
Thank you, Siddhartha. We want to go to
Thank
Matthew
you.
a little bit because and you can still hang out. But Matthew, can you just tell us a little bit about why you support life extension, and if you have a sign, you can hold it up.
Oh, let me get it. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay. And we have Teresa here too. Hi, Teresa.
I like your idea about becoming a god. That's what I'm into. I want to become an immortal god.
We could all have our own universes. By that point, we could make our own universes.
Heck yeah. Curing aging is just the first step to becoming a god. So I'm all for that.
Right. Teresa, are you there? Did we lose you? I don't know. We might have lost Teresa. So, Rowan, if you were a god of your own universe, what would your universe look like?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Oh, man. I think it would look... I think I'd probably allow a lot of suffering because I think it might make people better, you know? I think it would maybe build their character. I don't think I'd allow as much suffering as on this planet that's on this planet, right? Like I wouldn't have starving children.
Our God, because we've got a lot of suffering already.
I wouldn't allow starving children, you know. I wouldn't allow there'd be no like children getting raped in the child sex industry in my world. If I was a god. So if there's a god of this world, he's got a really interesting character to him. I'll tell you that much.
Right. All right. Matthew's got his sign. Go ahead and hold that up and tell us.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find a way to prop it up. But yeah, okay. I support indefinite life extension because I guess I'll just refer back to the Bender quote: "Anything less than immortality is a complete waste of time."
All right. And Matthew, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you work and what you do?
I am a groundskeeper at Oregon Cryonics, where my childhood dog Cupcake is currently being stored.
Excellent. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about cryonics?
How much time do we have?
Right now we're waiting for some other people to join us, so you might have a couple minutes. Hopefully Teresa will be connected. Teresa, I see Teresa here with us, but she's apparently either not at her computer or her mic isn't working. So go ahead.
Cryonics is post-mortem preservation of the neurological connectome, so that when medical technology is sufficiently advanced, a person could hypothetically or theoretically be recovered from that state.
Excellent, thank you. Hi, Teresa. I see that you're in the chat room. I don't see you on the screen. Make sure you're all connected on my end. Make sure you have your camera on and your mic on. Oh, Teresa has no camera or mic. Okay. So, welcome, Teresa. I'm sorry that you don't have a sign or anything that you can hang up. Do you have a message that you'd like me to relay to everybody on your behalf? Most people call you Tuesday. Okay. Well, Teresa, a.k.a. Tuesday, says hi to everybody. She doesn't have a mic or a camera, though. And yes, you can see her in the chat room there. Looks like we also have, hi Eric, how are you? Eric is in the library, so he can't talk. He can only look.
Oh, you left? Oh, darn.
And we have Robert, who's just joined us. Robert, are you there? Okay. looks like we have some people who are more just observing and watching, and some people who are connected who can interact. So Matthew, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Oh, well, Teens and 20s is coming up next month, and if anyone's here of eligible age, and welcome to register.
And where can people register?
At the Well, I think there's a post on Alcor's website, but I have a group link on Facebook.
If you'd like, you could put that in the message, the chat room.
Yeah,
there.
that's
There you go. Thank you.
what I'm doing. There we go. Right.
Excellent. And it looks like we have another new person who just joined. Kieran. Hi, Kieran. Are you there? Yeah.
Hi there.
Is this Kieran? We have Kieran, and we have Robert just joined us too. Hi, Robert. How are you?
Hi, how are you folks?
Good. Robert, go ahead and hold up your sign again and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you support Indefinite Life Extension.
Well, I hope the sign is going right way around as it's going out. My camera is reversing left to right here, but I'm a retired petroleum engineer. I do consulting work these days, and I've been interested in life extension ever since I was a kid, and read some of Ettinger's books on the subject.
Oh, have you read Man to Superman?
Yes, I have. I read that when it came out, and I think it was about the mid-'70s.
All right. Do you remember page 86?
Well, if you let me know what it was about.
Well, it's not appropriate for mixed company, but it's my favorite of Ettinger's works.
So we're going to be looking at page 86 after this, aren't we?
Yes, I think we'd have to. I might have to do quite a bit of hunting to find my copy of the book there. It's been a few years.
Okay, excellent. And it looks like we have Kieran. Kieran, am I saying your name right?
Yep. That's pretty much all there is to it. Yeah, I come from the life extension cause from the more practical side. I've been experimenting with supplements, and lately have become much more cautious about what I take. So, but yeah. That's, and I'm thinking of going back to school to study biology, biochemistry, something like that. So.
Excellent. Do you have a sign to hold up?
No, I don't. I just kind of dropped in. Broken portal didn't tell me. Just told me to click on this link, so I did.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have a sign.
Can you tell us why you support Indefinite Life Extension?
Why I support Indefinite Life Extension? Well, in indefinite, I come at this from the practical end. So indefinite life extension would obviously mean that you'd heal all the existing issues, right? Heal all the existing diseases as well. So that's why I support indefinite life extension. Yeah.
what would you say to people who don't think life extension is possible or feel that their moral standpoint should dictate to you or anybody else how long you should live?
So, I really don't see the point in that. I think society really needs to reconfigure itself, but to support this goal. But I mean, I don't see why everybody else has a say in how long you get to live. You know, so it almost sounds like a lynching when you put it that way.
Yes, it does. Does anybody have anything to add as far as recent technology or advancements that they've heard of that they think is interesting? Nanotechnology, stem cell research, etc.
Well, yeah, I have something to say in regard to what some people here have said earlier. I think you, Ron, have said that, as well as you, Matthew, that anything that is less than immortality is practically worthless, right? Correctly? So I'd like to say something on that. I think that even if we manage to extend our life for, say, 100 years or even a decade from now, then it can get us. It's not meaningless because it can get us to longevity escape velocity, and we can't be sure that we can get to immortality right away, right from the state where we are now. I mean, even if we manage to extend our life for a relatively short amount of time, like 10 years or even 5 years, it can get us to longevity escape velocity, or it can get us to that point in time where we can actually get to immortality. So it's not meaningless. It's far from that.
I completely agree. That's why we need to keep on advancing in power until we're like pretty much like gods, because if we don't do that, we're at risk for existential threats like an asteroid hitting the planet or some, crazy thing that could happen. Even the heat death of the universe is something we're going to have to solve eventually.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, we must not abandon more, say, short-term goals like extending our life even a short amount of time in favor of trying to extend it forever, like in a bang, like from where we are now, from that point in time, from that biological state of ours. It's something that I'm not sure we can do, but we can continuously extend our lifespan, and eventually get to the point where we can reach actual immortality. I mean, it might be a gradual process, not something that is necessarily done right away, and that I think is something that people should consider.
As perhaps one of the oldest participants in the call here, I would have to observe that extra 10 or 20 or 50 years sounds pretty good.
And I mean, after all, we're all looking to kind of ride that curve as technologies continue. I mean, making it maybe just an extra 10 years is all it takes, because once we hit that point, then there's going to be more advancements. And this is part of Aubrey de Grey's whole theory that if you just keep hanging on, we might not become immortal instantly, but we're going to develop the technologies to keep people who are right now in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s around long enough so they can ride that wave and continue up.
Right, we're already seeing that with AIDS. Like, people who get HIV now, they are already at escape velocity.
Exactly. And now we have Michael, who just joined us. Hi, Michael.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Do you have a sign to hold up?
Well, sure. Can you see this?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Go ahead. Hold it up. There you go. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you support Indefinite Life Extension?
Oh, I'm a retirement futurist. So I'm a financial professional who came into the whole idea of radical life extension and technological acceleration through a lot of reading, partly with Ray Kurzweil and Aubrey de Grey, etc. And I joined those insights with my own profession as a financial planner because I really think that it's important that healthy life extension occur for the world because of the financial distress that will arrive if we don't do that. And that has to do with the incredible aging population globally that we have that will put massive additional pressure on the medical systems as well as the pension and debt systems of the global economy. So another way to look at life extension is that if we don't we don't achieve healthy life extension, that it will bring on massive suffering around the world based on the economic disruption that will occur from the, especially from the industrialized world where there's older populations of people.
That's a really good point. And, you know, there's a lot of naysayers who tend to look at it the opposite way. They see the potential for overpopulation as draining societies financially. But you don't see it that way.
Well, there are two kind of major dividends that occur from people living longer and healthier. Number one is they continue to be productive citizens of the world, as opposed to citizens that are drawing from the system. They're actually adding to the system. So that's a very, and when we have this big bulge of aging, like boomer population approaching, and not just the boomers, but in other countries, you know, aging populations will put massive pressure financially on the world's resources. That by staying healthy and being able to be productive longer, as opposed to, say, retiring and drawing from the system, you actually have an incredibly dramatic financial impact on a positive way on the global economy. If the global economy is healthy, then that economy can afford to help make the right investments in terms of you know, how to deal with other problems in the world, such as pollution and overpopulation. I really don't see overpopulation as an immediate issue, because there has been discussion about it. If nobody in the world died, you really wouldn't really see a big impact right away. It would take quite a while before there would be a major impact. It really has to do with more of the birth rate in the world is really the issue as far as overpopulation. And what we're seeing by advances in technology, education, healthcare, in terms of equality and women's rights, etc., as these trends continue, you get a lowering of the birth rate right across the board, to where many countries now actually have population declines. If it wasn't for immigration, their population would be declining. So, in fact, I think don't forget that life extension is, you might say, one part of the impact of, you might say, technological acceleration. And that technological acceleration will have other impacts, such as lowering of birth rate. And I think that population issue is really it obviously needs to be discussed at some point, but it's not probably of real concern in terms of the whole area of healthy life extension for at least 40 years, which is a lot of time to deal with things before then.
Right, we can figure those things out. I think, too, a lot of times people will point out that there are certain people, you know, or companies, organizations, that if given the opportunity to continue, it could lead to bad things. They could dominate. In other words, the fact that we have people who eventually age off and die, it presents an opportunity for younger people to move up and take their place. For example, just off the top of my head, imagine a world where the Koch brothers were able to continue living and living and living. Would that necessarily be a good thing or a bad thing for society? And how would you respond to people who present that as an issue? Go ahead, Matthew.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, but if corrupt politicians lived indefinitely, eventually they're just going to lose power. And if people are living indefinitely, eventually people will see there's no real need to reproduce. I mean, I already decided I'm going to get snipped sometime like later this year or next year. because I don't really have a use for that function. It's just the reason why people reproduce is because they die, and the reason why people die is because they reproduce, and it's just an obsolete system.
I think another factor that would be coming up would be if we do reach a point later on where we can upload our consciousness to a non-biological platform, that pretty well gets rid of most of the environmental population problems that we associate with having some number of billions of biological human beings on the world. It's not to say that that it's either a good idea or a bad idea, but certainly you could say that if the indefinite life extension was taking place as on a different technological platform, it would not have anywhere near the environmental impact.
Great point. Does anybody else have anything to add?
Well, one thing I like when I hear Avi de Grey talk about this topic is kind of the relative importance of various issues. And one thing to consider is that there are 100,000 people dying every day from age-related, conditions, and that is the massive, crying need to address. The idea that we may have overpopulation issues or resource issues in 20, 30, 40 years is something to keep in mind, but if you really look at it in perspective, I think there are many ways that can be dealt with, whereas every day that goes by, 100,000 people are dying. So it seems like on a relative basis that our attention should be focused on dealing with aging as a disease, and of course also continue to work on dealing with the other major global issues, but that has to be, in terms of in perspective, there are many positive outcomes that you can imagine from the point of view of overpopulation or resource problems that will be addressed by things like nanotechnology and other types of technology going forward. That's my view.
Tinkerbell has something to add. Tinkerbell says that aging makes her angry. She's angered. She's angered at the death of innocent people, right? Yeah, 100,000 people every day. It's a nightmare.
Teresa says that 150 people die a day, 365,000 people. And it looks like we have a new person. Rodney is with us now. Hi, Rodney. How you doing?
Hi, how you doing today?
Good. Do you have a sign to hold up?
I sure do.
Oh, turn it around.
Can you see it?
Excellent. There you go. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you support life extension?
Well, I do some of my own data research in the field, and I've located some things in science that I have been exposing to people around the earth so they can find the cure that I have located, and so they can find it in their own laboratories, and so I can join them in that endeavor.
It's really fascinating. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that?
Well, yeah, I discovered I was very sickly as a young man. I'm still not a very strong man, but I had a heart attack and I was electrocuted and had to be revived when I was a young man. And it makes you think about death very deeply when something like that takes place in your life. And I thought about it, and I had a hypothesis one day that science and technology had everything they needed to cure aging and death, where the human body could heal itself, cure itself, even if they died. And since we have located all this in science, since I had those thoughts, such as the planarian worm and the hydra, to where it repairs itself, it cannot be killed. I feel the human body has that capability, and I found some different areas where the human body is infected by certain types of bacteria and certain particles on Earth, So we remove that from our body, then we become more and more like the planarian worm and more like the hydra, to where we can self-repair ourselves. The stem cell system will become mighty again and be 25% of our body instead of like a fraction of our body. Instead, our body be like the planarian worm, to where the neoblasts of the planarian worm make up 25% of its body. That's why it can be destroyed. It can be broken down into 200 pieces and then build 200 worms from itself. So I feel the human body has that type of capability, and we have to rid the body of the infection first. So that's the kind of work I do. That's what I study data from other scientists and other researchers around the earth, and I believe I have found the cure for aging and for the stem cell system.
That's incredibly impressive.
There's no doubt that the whole stem cell area is, as I think I mentioned, I'm an online researcher with businesses, and I'm working for a client right now who's interested in marketing equipment to doctors' offices who are doing various types of stem cell therapy. And I was simply amazed at how far it has come, how far I was just, even somebody who keeps up with quite a bit with technology like I do, I was still kind of under the impression that most stem cell therapy was the sort of thing you only found in university research hospitals or something of that sort. I mean, it was being done, but it was not something that was common. Well, you're starting now to have individual clinics and even individual doctors who are starting to incorporate some of these things into a practice. Now, a lot of it is aesthetic, cosmetic type things, but still, it's very impressive, and how just the little work I've done so far for this client on finding out how much is going on in that field.
It is really fascinating. Does anybody else have any thoughts or anything to add on some of the stem cell technologies that are happening?
Well, yes, I do actually. What I'd like to know is if is there anything in stem cell in particular and in general that can possibly maybe reverse the aging process? I mean, living up to like 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, it's all good and stuff, but is there something that can be done to reverse the aging process? Because even if we live for such a long time, then we're still going to be old and wrinkled someday, all of us, the way I state it. So is there something that can be done to undo this process to make us like biologically young forever? And of course there's the avatar thing, which is loading our mind to a non-biological carrier, but you know, I'm not sure I'd like to spend the rest of my life as some kind of robot, and I'm not sure most people would.
I want to be a robot. I think that'd be great. Right? It looks like we have a new person who just joined us. Chris, hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks.
Do you have a sign that goes up? I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Cool. This is my, well, I think this is probably my first, second or third hangout. It's not something I engage in regularly.
Can you tell us why you support life extension?
Sorry?
Can you tell us why you support life extension?
You're breaking up a little bit, I never got that.
Sorry about that. I just asked if you could tell us why you support life extension.
Why do I support it?
Yes.
I guess it's the possibilities of advanced technology in the future. That's probably the main thing that really inspires me. And obviously nobody wants to get sick. I think that's another obvious reason, but the possibilities of future technology is the sort of thing that really, yeah, that's what inspires me.
And I think you raised a good point, and you touched on this before, is we don't necessarily want to live forever and have these old, wrinkly, decrepit bodies that are sick. As we develop cures and advancements for some of the major diseases like Alzheimer's, cancer, heart disease, etc., we're naturally going to be making our bodies healthier and more vital. So I think that, for people who say that, they don't want to grow old, they don't want to just live forever, I think this goes hand in hand with making sure that our bodies are able to regenerate and stay vital and healthy and continue so that we can lead active, fulfilling lives. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Or,
Well, to get back, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead.
To get back to what Jacob was asking a while ago, and that goes along with Chris, I found in research in the data of research science of the 1900s that the somatic cell system and the stem cell system, the entire cell system of the human body has an infection that science has not detected. And I believe I have found it, and I have also found a way to cure it. But naturally, I'm looking for funding and for financing on that. But to answer Jacob's question, it is possible right now, this day, for us to heal the stem cells and the entire cell system of the human body to where it will start repairing itself, then rejuvenating, then actually evolving into a stronger being. So according to my data, according to what I found in research and science, we have an infection, a disease that science has not been able to detect as yet. But now today, with the combined data of all research, if you look at it closely, you find that they found an infection and then they called it something different and went on about their business. But it turned out it's an infection. So, to answer Jacob, we have the capability right now to live 1,000 years, in my opinion.
Oh, thank you, Rodney. That's very interesting. Is there anywhere on the web that I can find a detailed account of this?
Well, yes, sir. You could go to my website at Adam and Eve Word Research, and you can examine the site there. And there's many posts that will mention this research or data that I found in other men's research. And you can also find young men who are so serious about the end of aging, such as Rowan Horn here on the site here. He has, I have links to his sites there on the site, and to Aubrey de Grey and many of the great people such as Rowan Horn that are in the movement right now. So yeah, you can go by the website there and you can find information about what I'm talking about.
Could you please be so kind and post a link to this right in here in the chat?
My friend, I don't know if it's my screen or what, but I don't have the capability to do that here. I don't know if it's my app on my computer or what. I just have you. That's it.
Can you give the URL one more time? I tried to write it down. I'm not sure if I caught it all.
It's Adam and Eve Word Research. Blogspot.com.
Yeah, Teresa just posted it. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, great. Does anybody else have any thoughts or anything that they, got going on? Any kind of research, fundraisers, groups, organizations that they want to share?
I have something I could talk about. I'm going to be launching a little campaign to motivate people to try to reach out to celebrities on Twitter. Okay, a lot of celebrities are on Twitter, and if we can, as groups, if we can all just message our favorite celebrities and ask them about their opinion on aging. Ask them if they would want to live forever. Ask them if they'd want indefinite life extension. I think this is one way we could bring more attention to this. And if any celebrities respond with any cool quotes, I can make posters of those and post them on the Eternal Life fan club. And people are just obsessed with celebrities. You notice this in our culture? So I think transhumanism should try to use popular culture to promote itself. And celebrities are a vehicle we could use to really push the movement forward a lot. And I could make posters and stuff like that. But in even moderately famous celebrities could be used to draw attention, because each celebrity has their own, horde of fans, and it's pretty cool. I think we can use this.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. It's a good point.
And it's an interesting topic too, how Hollywood has portrayed people who live forever, anybody who is immortal. You have it in pop culture. You have movies, like the recent movie with Johnny Depp that unfortunately didn't do so well in the box office. But there's, it seems to portray it as, the thing to be afraid of. It's like the Frankenstein monster, people who could achieve this or seek it, are somehow innately bad or misguided. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're right. There's such a stereotype against immortality, but a few movies go against that stereotype. Like Twilight, I thought was one that went against the stereotype. It actually portrayed immortality in a really good way. You have the main character wanting to go to the side of immortality and live forever as a vampire, so I thought that was cool. But it's crazy. It's based on our societal prejudices, and people who make the movies are just other, brainwashed people that accept death, and they put those prejudices into their movies. And we need to just get past this and realize that death robs us of everything that's good in life. People, I think, they are making excuses for death because they think it's inevitable. And so it's a way to cope with it. It's a psychological coping mechanism. You have to lie to yourself and say, what? Hey, death and aging isn't bad. Because that's in order to, go through life and not be in a fearful state, and people hate that. But so they have to lie to themselves and tell themselves that death and aging is actually good when it's not. It's a way to cope. It's like Aubrey de Grey talks about this a lot. It's like people have to trick themselves. Bad.
That's a really, really good point. Any other thoughts on that, or what do you say? What do we say to the naysayers, just in general?
I think we should say that we should point out the ethical problem of aging. People don't even have a choice when they die. Okay, so as long as people don't have the choice to live and extend their life, it's unethical. It's just as bad as a kid dying of cancer. They're being forced to die. And if people say, well, it's not a problem, people have lived their lives. People start to give excuses for aging, like, well, those people are old, they've lived their life, and stuff like that. When people start to have that conversation, they're prejudiced against old people. They're saying old people aren't as important. They're saying old people don't have a right to live anymore because they're old. It's ageism, as Aubrey de Grey points out a lot. It's just this horrible attitude that says old people don't matter as much. Like, just because an old person's lived a long time, they're not entitled to more life. And that's not true. An old person's life is just as valuable as a child. An old person is just a child, it's just a grown-up child. And so it's ridiculous.
Right. And you have all the knowledge and experience that older people bring to the table. It's actually really interesting in the American society how people view the elderly. You don't necessarily have that in other countries and other cultures, and definitely in the past, the older a person was, the wiser they were considered, and they became, the leaders and the people that, taught everybody else. Whereas now, once you reach a certain age, it's true, like you said, there's this certain, prejudice against older people.
There's a huge prejudice. It is ridiculous. It is really bad. And society in general, they just kind of push old people to the side. It's like we don't mind that old people have to die. It's ridiculous. We should be upset. We should be angry. We should be angry that old people, and we're going to be old people one day if we don't, solve this problem. So it's for ourselves. There's a selfish motive to this, but there's also just a humanitarian motive, which is that, look, people are dying. People should have a right to live for as long as they choose. Such as Theresa said in the comment section here. She said, I think people should have the choice to live as long as they want. And so that's what it's about. It's about giving people the choice and not to be forced off the planet into oblivion for all we know. Because when you die, you might cease to exist. There's no evidence of an afterlife, and that's what makes death so crappy.
Precisely. We have to make our own.
Can I interject something here? Mr. Rowan Horn, his passion. That's how I noticed him one day. His deep passion for this issue is just impressive, and that is why he's been made one of the faces of this movement. Because just to hear him speak about it is you just see his passion and his desire for death and aging to end. Now, Eric has prompted me that there's many people wanting to get on here, so I'm going to leave off of here. But I want you to know that Rowan Horn, keep an eye on him. He's always up to date with everything that's going on in this industry and in this movement. So you have a good day, okay? And I have much respect for all of you. Have a good day.
Rodney, thanks for joining us. And we have some new people who have just hopped on. Hi, Kartik. I'm saying that right?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, you're saying that right.
Excellent. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, why you support life extension, and if you have a sign, you can hold it up. And I'm gonna.
I couldn't get a sign. I'm sorry for that. Yeah, I couldn't get a sign. But yeah, so basically, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So apart from the choice of indefinite life extension, there are a few practical aspects of which I want to bring to the notice. The first is that when you talk about life extension, there are two ways of having an extended life. One is when you live longer and get old, but still continue to live long. And the other is when you don't get old, you are healthy, you are young, but you can live for as long as you want. So I don't know which aspect of it is more favorable and which would be the direction in which we should go in the future. Maybe that's a debatable issue. And apart from that, with an increased life extension program, there'll be many people who will live longer, and eventually the population will grow. So there needs to be regulation over that. And these are the practical issues that I wanted to highlight and discuss in this forum right now.
Excellent. Anybody have thoughts or questions or want to expand on that?
I'd like to just jump in if I could just for a second. The point that was brought up there, I thought it was valid. It's quite valid. It's the idea that I personally don't really focus on life extension. I just focus on staying healthy. In other words, helping everybody stay healthy. The side effect of that is that you don't die. So it's not really necessary to take on a belief system that says you need to live X, Y, Z or forever. It's the idea that human beings want to stay healthy and they want to be happy, and essentially they can't be happy unless they're healthy. So I think science now is approaching the ability to enable us to continue to be healthy indefinitely if we choose to do that. Then all the other obstacles like overpopulation, resource issues are just really kind of footnotes, in my opinion. And these are all based on various conceptual approaches that I think can be just rationally dealt with, such as overpopulation, taking up resources, not allowing enough jobs for younger people. These are all kind of footnotes, in my opinion. It's really the issue of if we could let everybody in the world become healthy and stay healthy, why wouldn't we do that? And I think all the other issues can be dealt with in various technological or scientific approaches. So I just wanted to throw that in. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree with this, but as far as the research goes, right now there's most of the data from C. elegans and mice where they have increased the lifespan of the organism, but for humans it's mostly drugs or chemical approaches. Or staying healthy means taking more medicines or doing more exercise, calorie restriction, and other approaches. But as compared to mice and C. elegans, if you proportionately increase the lifespan of humans, how long would you think it would go, and what would be the best approach? Would it be a genetic approach, or more of uh, like exercise or restriction based approach?
Well, if you're asking me, I don't know, but there are many different approaches that are still developing, and others we probably don't even know yet will merge. Personally, I think it'll be a number of different interventions that will have to eventually be developed to be available in a clinical setting to kind of, as Aubrey says, clean up the cellular, junk and other accumulated damage system. That's one way to do it. And then the other way to do it is to actually turn on internal mechanisms of natural rejuvenation, like the stem cell systems that can actually revert to earlier, healthier, younger status of the cell. So these are all things that are coming. I'm not a scientist to know which one is going to happen first, but probably my guess is that we're actually going to see some very exciting drug entries very soon, because the innovations that can happen in that field can happen much faster because of the nature of information technology versus the much longer testing of new drugs or biotechnology interventions. So there's a race in many different fields in the world of anti-aging. So just to kind of in an armchair guess about what might be most impactful in the near term, my guess is going to be drug interventions from the insights of big data. That'd be my guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and just to add on, the branch of transhumanism that's evolving with all the robotics and with the with artificial limbs and arms and other stuff, and using stem cells to grow organs. So I think that will be a big step in the future. But yeah, I'm just I just wanted to highlight this thing about transhumanism, which is growing really fast.
Mm.
Hey, I would
I
like to
think
ask a
too that
question on
once the drug companies start to see that there's a market for this and there's an interest in it, that's where the technology is really going to come from. That's where the advancements are going to come from once the drug companies get a hold of it.
Yeah, indeed.
They'll perpetuate it. I just wanted to add that Tuesday is in the chat room, and Tuesday's degree is in Earth Science. And she's stating that we as a species have to change our impact on the planet, and that if we don't have a planet to live forever on. She posted a Facebook link. What do you think about people who say that life extension is going to have a negative impact on the planet, on our resources? A very valid point.
I think that life extension will have a great impact on our planet, because people, when they're thinking they can live indefinitely, they're going to care so much more about being an environmentalist and taking care of the planet, because they're going to think to themselves, I'm going to have to live here for a long time, and so it creates a burden of responsibility. It makes them feel like they're not just going to leave this planet to the next generation. Like, this is their planet, this is their heaven. And it's going to give people an attitude that we have to create a heaven on earth, and so we have to, progress technology and science, and just think about how smarter people are going to be. They're going to have minds that have been alive for hundreds of years. They're not going to lose all that information. So we're going to have super experts in the field of environmentalism and how to go green, new energy, and we're going to come up with I'm optimistic. I think we're just going to come up with solutions for all the problems: overpopulation, all of this stuff, pollution, global warming. We can solve it all.
Absolutely. And Tuesday is saying go rowing in the chat room, and we have Fabian here. I don't know if Fabian, I see Fabian is there. I don't know, Fabian, if you can talk to us or if you can show your screen, but we do acknowledge that you're here. Make sure everybody knows that they're included and has an opportunity to talk, hold up their signs, let us know their thoughts. I think, too, that when you look at some of the big corporations, and let's face it, there are many companies that are responsible for polluting the environment, oil companies, manufacturing companies, etc. If the people that are in charge realize that that company, it goes back to being around longer, they're going to realize that in order for the company to be successful, it's not talking about the next 40, 50 years, it's worrying about the next 500, 1,000, millions of years. So that's going to incentivize them to basically clean up their act.
Exactly. Yeah, people are going to have to live with their reputation forever, and it's going to make them so much more responsible. Right now, people are thinking, well, I'm only going to live 90 years, and then I'm going to die, so it won't matter if I leave this horrible legacy and do all these evil things, because I'll be dead. It won't bother me. But they're going to have a burden of responsibility to be excellent people, because they're going to have a record, and that record's going to be with them forever.
Does anybody have anything to add?
I would like to ask a question on the interventions that will become available with data and that type of thing. That I don't know who was talking about that. It was someone that mentioned it, and I was going to ask, like, what sort of benefits or what sort of life extension benefits would you think that they would have when they become available, and what age bracket would they be? Would they be most effective? Would they be only work for people who are like of a certain age or not?
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Chris. Can you turn up your mic closer to it? We can't quite hear you.
Sorry.
Maybe can you turn up your mic a little bit, Chris? We're having a hard. Your volume's really low.
Is that better?
Not really.
No. Well, it's just a bad reception then, I'm afraid. Not to worry.
A little bit of a feedback loop.
Yeah, nothing I can do about it.
There you go. That's better right there. Now we can hear you better.
Sorry?
We can hear you better now. You can't hear us,
right,
but we
okay.
can hear you.
Well, the question was related to the interventions that will become available from insights from big data. And I was wondering what sort of life extension benefits or what they would confer in terms of years, and who they would be most, who would be applicable to. Would it only be beneficial for people of a certain age, or? I just wanted to. Somebody mentioned that a couple of minutes ago.
Now we heard you good at kind of that probably after them. Okay, it looks like Brett is leaving us. Well, does anybody have anything in thoughts or anything to add?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Let's give. I'm going to give a little plug for Sense Foundation, just in case. I'm sure most of you guys know what Sense Foundation is, and a lot of the people watching. But just in case there's anyone that doesn't know what Sense Foundation is, who's watching in the audience, Sense Foundation is one of the top anti-aging organizations that can help extend our lives. And this is by a scientist named Aubrey de Grey, and he is the top guy. You have to look him up and watch all his lectures, because what he's doing is the most important work. Because he's bringing together all the different scientists around the world and all the different people who specialize in aging, and he's trying to give them funding. And he's funding all kinds of different people through his Sense Foundation. Personally, it's the most promising. It's the most promising anti-aging organization. I mean, Google Calico is also another one to look into. But there's a real hope. I want to make sure people are inspired that this is totally possible. I know it can sound science fiction, and it can sound like it's not going to happen in time for you. And, you know, especially if you're getting older, a lot of people they lose hope, and they get a feeling of hopelessness. And then they think, oh, I'm just going to die, and it's not going to happen in time for me, maybe my grandchildren. But you have to, no matter how old you are, you have to stay hopeful and do everything you can to just help the movement of indefinite life extension, because it's happening, and it really could happen in time for you. So don't lose hope, and make sure, just spread the word. Make YouTube videos. Make a video saying how upset you are that you're gonna possibly die and cease to exist. Let's tug at people's emotional strings, and get people really sympathizing with older people. That what a nightmare it would be to be an old person and to be coming to the end of your life and wanting more life, but you're not going to be able to because of this disease of aging. We need to really pound that into people and say, look, this is a tragedy. This is an atrocity. This is something the whole world needs to support. And I think we can do it. If a small group of dedicated people can expand a movement and get more people dedicated, and before you know it, there's a huge, massive movement, and that's what the Movement for Indefinite Life Extension page is doing. That's what I'm trying to do with the Eternal Life Fan Club. We can all work together. Everyone can do something. Everyone can do something. You can use your talent, your ability, for the cause of life extension, whatever it is. I mean, we all have some kind of talent and ability, and we can use it. And we have to do this. This is the most important cause. This is your life. This is your existence. What could be more important than preserving your own existence? If you love yourself, if you love your life, you would get behind this, and you would try your absolute hardest, and you'd never give up. You would fight to end aging. You would use everything you have and put all your energy into it, because there's nothing more important.
And I think your group, Ruin, and Sense Foundation, and Elcor, there's so many organizations and groups out there. Obviously, Mile itself, Lifeboat Foundation. All of these groups have people that are fighting really hard to raise awareness, because that is such a key component. What kind of marketing or PR messages do you think that we could give to the general public? Because with all of these people out there making all of these, sending out all these messages, do you think there's like one unified slogan or mantra or mission statement that we should have to reach people in mass?
Yeah, I think that we can appeal to people on two levels. We can appeal to people on a self-interested motive, where you get them to think about their own life, and get them to think about their mortality and what it would mean for them if they were to die and cease to exist. So on that level, you can use just the fear of death, and the idea that a person should be bothered by their non-existence if they love life. So that's one level we can appeal to people. And the second way we could appeal to people is through just the ethics of involuntary death, how horrible that is. And aging is no exception to the rule that involuntary death is a bad thing. It's a bad thing when a child is dying of cancer. It's a bad thing when someone is starving to death in Africa. These are all problems, and aging is no exception to that. So it's just as important as any other cause of involuntary death. And so I think those are the prime ways that we can appeal to people. It's just the love of life. I mean, if you love life, you're going to want to keep on existing, and aging is a wall that's going to get you. You can't escape it unless we fund aging research. I mean, you don't have many options. And just the suffering of aging, which is the prime way that Aubrey de Grey kind of puts that message out there into the world. He's doing a really good job of that, so I want to give him props for that.
Definitely. It looks like Fabian is with us on the video now. Hi, Fabian. How are you? Oh, it doesn't seem like we can hear Fabian.
Okay.
There you go.
Is it working right now?
We can hear you. Hi, Fabian.
Okay.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, why you support life extension? And if you have a sign, please hold it up.
Okay, I am Fabiani from Brazil, and I support life extension because I think that death is unfair. I see so many wonderful people dying, and we lost wonderful opportunities to discover new things and to keep learning new things, to live better lives. And I want to fight aging and treat it as a disease, so I stopped seeing it.
Awesome.
Are you going to teens and 20s?
Sorry?
Are you going to teens and 20s with Nuno and the other Brazilian?
I think the internet in Brazil is terrible, so can you please repeat what you say?
I'll type it.
Okay.
And it is great that there's so many young people that are interested in, supporting this cause. It's really interesting. There you go, teens to 20. It's really interesting how we have so many people like Matthew and Adrian and Rowan and people that are in their 20s and early 30s that are supporting this.
Well, another thing I think is important to mention is we need to appeal to people in unique ways, depending on what group they're in. We can, like, let's say you're into like a specific thing. Let's say you're into cosplay or whatever. You can appeal to your own group in a way that would appeal to cosplay fans. So there's all kinds of different social clubs in the world, and so you can cater your message specifically to your social club, whatever it is, and I think that's a thing we can do.
Yes, I did an internship in Russia working on an aging research, and I met Daria Katerina. I don't know if you know her. Daria Katerina?
I've never heard of that. Wait, what's that again? Say that again.
Daria Katerina. It's a Russian woman, responsible member of Longevity Alliance.
Okay.
So I'm funding the International Longevity Alliance here in Brazil, and I'm starting doing the website and translating articles, and to make this topic more popular here in Brazil, because almost no one talks about it here. We just have a few people, and I think that having Portuguese articles is it's gonna help to promote this topic here and to create more researchers research treating about it.
Awesome. That's so important what you're doing. Absolutely.
What's your website? Can you share it?
No, it's still not published. I'm still creating it.
I'll share something of mine if you're willing to share yours. My material isn't finished.
Sorry?
I'm willing to share something unfinished of mine if you're willing to share your unfinished project.
Okay, okay, thank you. When I publish it, I will talk to you.
So that raises a good point. Does anybody else have any projects or things that they're working on right now? Maybe they want suggestions or they want to share their ideas?
I'm creating a card game called Cryonics Against Humanity.
Nice.
So far, I have about 36 cards, so I just called it an expansion pack.
Excellent. That sounds good.
Cryonics on ice, and I think that's going to be catch on.
Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
Well, I need help with it. No one's willing to help me with it. I've been working on it for like 4 years, and no one likes the idea. Well, I play people like they do, no one's like willing to participate in it.
Send me what you got. I'd like to see that.
I have a few more things to add to the document first, but I can share my Cryonics Against Humanity game. Let's see, upload. Okay, here we are.
That's great. Thank you, Matthew. So one of the things that we're doing with this is we're recording it. And we're going to reach out to all people. So right now, we're doing conversations. We all kind of feel the same way on the topics. And in many ways, we're preaching to our own choir right now. You guys have any websites, any articles, anything that you would like to suggest to people, books to read, who might be just learning about the movement for the first time? Where should people start?
I think they should start with Aubrey de Grey. Aubrey de Grey, anything he has to say, you know, all his articles, all his videos. He's done so many videos on YouTube, and I think that's just such a wealth of information. If you want to just see some of the key quotes, I made a lot of quote posters for Aubrey de Grey on the Eternal Life fan club, and SENS Foundation. I can't say enough good things about what SENS is doing. They're my top group my top organization that I want to support.
Yes, I think you can also search for Alex Javoronkov's books. It's also really amazing and involving. You want to read more and more about aging, and he also do a lot of research in this field. I think it's after Albert de Grey, it's also a good person to read about.
Oh, another one, Maria Konolevenko. She's actually having this longevity cookbook, and so that's a good thing just in terms of how to live to the longevity escape velocity. She's going to be doing. She's going to be basically. This book is the idea. Of the book is going to be lots of research going into this about what is the healthiest diet you could eat right now with the current science. So I'm going to be interviewing her when she releases that, and that's a good thing to look into. Anything Maria Klonovenka, she has a cool blog too. I love it.
Yeah, she's doing a good job.
Yeah.
I think too, for people who aren't familiar, reading Kurzweil and Singularity and more is a great primer, especially to learn about transhumanism.
Oh, and then we could also mention Death is Wrong, the children's book Death is Wrong. I have one around here too. That's a great book. Make sure that's one of the most important things we could be doing is actually giving this Death is Wrong book to children.
I heard about that. There was a Kickstarter campaign for printing money, right?
Yeah, it was a whole Kickstarter campaign. They Gennady and Wendy Starlov, I interviewed them, and they are awesome. And this book is so great for children. Just give it to children, and it's on Amazon. You can get it in this. It's one of the coolest books. It's good for adults too. It's just a good introduction to life extension, and it's awesome. So, I filmed a lot of when I give the book to kids, and I film it. And I put that on the Eternal Life Fan Club. So I have quite a few of those videos of me giving the book to kids. It's pretty cool.
Great. Is it a big book?
Yeah, it's a little flat, paper book, but it's...
Because so I can translate it and give to some Brazilian children.
Oh, yeah. Maybe you could work with Gennady and Wendy, and maybe you can work on a translated version. That would be good. They'd probably be down for that.
Yeah, I can do it really fast.
Awesome.
A book that I read a few years ago that really got me interested in the movement as well was Cheating Death by Sonia Gupta. I think that's a good place to start. There's also The Youth Pill by David Stick, I believe the pronunciation is, which really kind of covers a lot of the research going into this and trials with mice and extending their life expectancy.
The Transhumanist Wager by Zoltan Istvan. This is a great book. I'm about halfway into it. I love it. I love the main character in this book, Jethro Tull. Jethro Knights. And he's kind of reminds me of myself because he's really into, he's like into his saving himself, from death. That's like his main thing. And that's like my main thing is to preserve your existence. That to me seems, and I think everyone should want to preserve their existence, right? I mean, that's the most important thing is staying alive. Life is a struggle for survival. And it's some people look into the transhumanist movement and the life extension movement, and they say things like, "Well, that's just so selfish. These people are all about just living forever, and it's just such a selfish thing." Well, no, it's not really. I mean, it is a selfish thing, but when you think about it, it's also a very selfless thing. It's a humanitarian thing because you're not going to be able to help anyone if you're dead, right? You need to be alive to help people. And so if you're trying to save your own life, think about how many people you're going to be able to help in billions of years.
Right, and if those people end up dying, then what's the point?
Wait, say that again?
If those people end up dying, what's the point?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, what's the point of helping anyone if they're just going to die and cease to exist? It's pointless.
It's like what I told my mom when she wanted me to cupcake her on the ground. She was like, "Well, at least she's gonna have a good life," and I'm like, "Yeah, that she's gonna forget about when her brain decomposes."
Your audio is really cutting off there. I hope my audio doesn't sound that bad.
No, you sound good.
Yeah, Matthew's audio wasn't good. I could hardly hear anything he said.
Oh, sorry, my phone was ringing. Okay, so when I moved here from Maryland, my mom wanted me to leave Cupcake behind, and I knew that my mom was going to let Cupcake her on the ground if I did that. But and she And she was going to be, she was, well, at least she's going to have a good life and comfortable and everything. And I'm like, well, there's no point if she's going to forget all of that when her brain's gone.
Exactly.
So I didn't listen to her, I took Cupcake with me, and she's in the lab 5 miles that way.
It's just like Bender says, anything but immortality is a waste of time. Are you eating Pringles? Those are so bad for you.
There's a Cuban joke about Fidel Castro, where supposedly the president of Ecuador comes on a visit and brings him a baby Galapagos tortoise and as a present, and Castro says, "Well, it's nice, but I'm going to have to send it to the zoo. You know how it is with pets. Just as you start getting attached to them, they die."
That's awesome.
Of course, an animal with a 450-year lifespan is kind of.
Another interesting point is, they're in the life extension movement. There's some people who say, I just want to live to, and they give a set date. They just like, I want to live to just 200 years, or I want to live to 300 years, or whatever. That's silly. If you say I want to live only a certain amount of years, you're basically saying eventually you'd want to die. It's basically like a suicidal mindset, isn't it? It's like, if you don't want to live forever, why not? Why don't you want to live forever?
Right, and wouldn't you want to give it some time and see how you feel at the time?
Exactly.
I mean, I know right now that I don't want to live to 80. I want to live closer. And I still got a ways to go until I'm 80. So who's to say that I know now what date I'd want to die on? Let me make that determination as that time gets closer.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
So we have a few new people joining us. I'll give them a moment or two to get settled. And I'm trying to adjust my volume levels here because we're getting some feedback. Just so you're aware, when your mic is receiving the audio that you're listening to, it can cause a feedback loop. And I think we might have that with a couple of people, and I haven't been able to quite figure out who it is. So just be cognizant of how your mic is in proximity to your computer, and try to make some adjustments on your end if you suspect that it might be you.
Does my audio sound good?
Now it does. Before we were getting, you were kind of garbled. And sometimes too, it's a bandwidth issue. It's how fast the sound is traveling, and you can get some delay that way too. But now you sound good. Matthew was kind of cutting in and out a little bit earlier too. So, but we have Johanna. Hi, Johanna. I'm not sure if you're with us totally yet. But welcome to the group.
Oh.
And one of the things that we're really trying to do is hold up our signs and show support. So I know some of you have already held up your signs, but I don't see anything wrong with holding them up again if you want to, just kind of bring them out. Or if you haven't held yours up yet, please do. I see Eric's there again, too. He was kind of after us. And we have Keith, who has just joined.
How you doing?
Hi, Keith. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm great. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, why you support life extension, and holding a sign if you have one?
Sure, yeah. So basically, I'm a computer science scientist and programmer. That I do a lot of work personally for a lot of big companies like Major League Baseball and HBO. But over the last few years, I've been crossing over into biotechnology, working at the Citizen Science Laboratory GenSpace, so I can have more of an active hand in life extension research. And one of the big initiatives that I'm part of now is that me, some people from GenSpace, and a bunch of researchers from across the world we founded a nonprofit called the Life Extension Advocacy Foundation, or LEAF. And our first initiative coming in the next few months will be a crowdfunding hub called lifespan.io that will be geared specifically for helping out projects of this nature. Some of the initial teams we're working with are teams from SENS and David Sinclair's lab at Harvard. So we're excited. Right.
Really exciting.
Yeah. So, you know, as far as philosophically, why I think it's a good thing. I mean, I'm sure you guys have already talked about this at length, but you know, it's not a new idea since the Epic of Gilgamesh here, the first story ever recorded by our species. It's been a dream of mankind, and I think I'd like to see some better positioning to engage the public instead of, because I think there's a danger of transhumanism just in general being sort of associated with kind of the negative aspects of sort of Silicon Valley culture, where, you know, I think this is something, you know, nobody wants to get Alzheimer's disease, nobody wants their loved ones to die, and I think if we can really position this as, it's not a mandate, it's not us telling you what you should do with your life, it's about choices. You know, wouldn't you want, even if you don't want to live forever, wouldn't you want to give that choice to people that you love to let them decide how long they want to live and how healthy they want to live, which I think is an objectively good thing, and that choice should be available to people. And now's the right time to start galvanizing people to be engaged in that, because it's a really exciting time in human history, and you can you know, express that excitement and get people to join the quest that we've always been on since, you know, the Epic of Gilgamesh. That's my pitch.
It's a great pitch. What would you say to people who, to the naysayers, to people who don't think that life extension is possible and think that anybody who's doing research or exploring it is wasting their time and their money?
Well, I think the important thing there is to get people informed, because there's a lot of knee-jerk, you know, people like Aubrey de Grey have been very clear about this point, which I think is an accurate one, that until people understand that it's actually like a possibility and there are great strides being made right now, there's a knee-jerk reaction to just be like, oh, I don't want that, which really comes from kind of, you don't want to get your hopes up. But once you can actually see that this is a real thing and actually be exposed to the research that is logical, like some of the elements of the research are very logical. Like take the example of giving us the ability to break down lipofuscin, which we don't have in our cells already. You know, taking that DNA for that enzyme, you know, using CRISPR-Cas or something like that to bring that ability into our cells. That's very logical. So I think if you can present that in a very clear way, people will be able to understand it. Like, you know, I think we should have faith in the viewers. You know, have faith in people that they can understand things if you can explain it in an exciting and clear way, which I think is possible.
We have been fed, since Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, this idea that science and technology will bring about destruction and despair. It's kind of something that's permeated so much of our literature over the years. Do you think that you know, that constant message that, you know, if we fly too high, too close to the sun, you know, we're going to get smacked down, do you think that has a lot to do with it? Where people are just afraid because they don't understand the technology and they automatically think that if you're messing with our cells, you're exploring different gene therapies, that you're going to create something that's feared rather than embraced?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Actually, Frankenstein is my #1 favorite book of all time. Just wanted to throw that out there. But you know, I think it's more of, it's an ebb and flow of history, right? It has to do with the view of progress, which is related to modernism and postmodernism, and now what people are maybe calling meta-modernism, right? It's how, you know, in the modernists, you know, there was this drive for, you know, progress, and, you know, technology is going to make everything great. You know, so there was a period in history where people were very, you know, pro-technology. It's going to solve all our problems. But then with postmodernism, there was kind of a, you know, the opposite side of that, where like, well, you know, what does progress even mean? Are we really going up or just sideways? And there was a, you know, skepticism of that. But I think we can go forward from this point by really just sort of defining our terms clearly. You know, like, I think a very base definition of progress would be the continued survival of our species in a uncertain and changing universe. One example is I would consider it progress for us to be better equipped to stop the Earth from being destroyed by an asteroid or something like that, because if that doesn't happen, we could get wiped out. And that's the same logic for why we should colonize other worlds, right? So I think if you look at progress as just somebody existing, continuing going forward, even at that level, this kind of stuff makes sense. And I think you can convince people of that the total annihilation of the world is a good thing, or not a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You'd think that would be easy, but we have to realize what we're up against. A lot of the ideas against anti-aging and transhumanism come from religion, which is that, hey, look, if the world gets destroyed, hey, God wanted it to be destroyed. If you die from aging, God wanted you to die from aging. It's all God's plan. It's all part of the plan. And that's a lot of the problems, is that people, they think, look, aging is obviously part of God's plan, right? And they think that because, look, we get age, so they think we're created and God wants us to age. So they think to go against that is to go against God's plan, and it's a sin, and they think it's bad. And this is why transhumanism has so many negative stereotypes. It comes from religion.
Yeah, I agree, and it's a very we have to choose kind of our positioning very carefully, because you don't want to alienate everyone as well and allow people to have their traditions. Like there are certain elements of religion that people want to hold on to, their history and heritage. But I think we need to be able to not be afraid to critique failures in with logic. Like, for example, one thing that I kind of have a problem with some interpretations of religion is the discussion of free will and an omnipotent God. You can't really have a moral system if you believe that everything is part of God's plan. Those two things, just like Aristotelian logic, don't hold together, because if everything is part of God's plan, anything you do would be part of His plan. Thus, there can be no moral systems. So I think if you just can sort of very clearly express these things, you can attack the components of certain types of religious logic without demonizing everyone's heritage. And I think that's something we need to think about carefully, about how we can do that, because I don't think there needs to be a divide there. There are actually certain kind of combinations in history, like the Russian cosmists in the 1940s, that actually combined Christianity with transhumanism in a really interesting way. So my point there being, they don't have to be enemies if you can talk about it in the right way.
But some of the ideas are just completely opposed, like the idea that their eternal life is in the afterlife, and so they think they need to die to get to their paradise. And so
again, I think the key there is about choices, right? That choice will still always be afforded to you, and if you believe in an omnipotent deity who wants you to die, he'll find a way to make you die.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
So that's what I mean. It's like
being quoted. Genesis 3:19 of everybody.
I mean, so I think that's the most important thing, is to just position this as, this isn't really, I'm a little bit on the fence about the term transhumanism. I mean, I like the ideas, obviously, but the phrase itself can, it's beyond human, where I think it's very important to make the point that this is not something alien or strange. Like, this is human. This is what we've always been doing since, we've made the first poultices to try to, help people who are sick. This is what we've always done, and it affects everybody. Like, the clear example is that nobody wants Alzheimer's. You don't want your parents to have Alzheimer's disease, and that's something that is going to affect everyone. So I think if you position it that way, it's like, it's not saying that we're saying that you need to live forever regardless of what your religious belief is. No, it's that we're saying that everybody should have the choice. The people that you love should have the power to make their own choice.
I agree completely. Yeah. Another one way we could phrase it to the religious people is that, look, you believe in this God, but see, I think a lot of the things is they're fearing some kind of punishment from God if you go against the plan, if you mess around with nature, right? Because they think it's all part of God's plan. So they're afraid of God in a sense, that they're going to be punished if they reach too high, because a lot of times they say, that that humanity has this obsession with trying to become a god, and they don't like that, right? That's the religious idea attack on transhumanism. And I just think a lot of these ideas are really just too much opposed to really make a peace with. There's going to be a divide. There's a strong divide, and we might want to promote transhumanism and life extension. We might want to just work on ways of promoting secular culture and promoting reason and promoting, the doubt of God as well. It's important just to get people to doubt and think, hey, I actually don't know that there's a God. It's just a hypothesis,
Yeah, I think that's very important. And yeah, what you said about promotion of reason is, I think, very important. But like we were talking about earlier, we have to be careful to do that in a way that doesn't alienate things like people's attachment to heritage. But I do think, there is a flaw in kind of the public debate now, especially when the religions kind of have wars with each other, like when people like, I think, was it Sam Harris, like critique, like, Islam is worse than other religions because of this and that. And I don't think that's really the debate that we should be having. We should be having the debate that it's okay to have your religious sentiments, but when you try to make policy and logical decisions based on that, that should be what's critiqued. Because even if what your intuition from faith turns out to be the correct answer in a particular case, what should be, I think, important for the humanist message is that we need to arrive at our decisions by logic and reasoning and humanitarian assessments, and that's it. And, the faith-based decision-making should be critiqued always and ever as the wrong approach for a thinking being. And so I agree with you there, but again, we have to do it in such a way that doesn't alienate, because you can be, I think, religious in some way, spiritual in some way, without throwing out logic. There's a way to incorporate that. So.
And also, just from a sense of, if we love these people, we would tell them that when you die, you're probably going to cease to exist. Like, you might think there's an afterlife, but just in order to help them, we would warn them that they've been brainwashed from a young age to think there's an afterlife, but there's no proof for it. And there's no evidence for it whatsoever. So it's really unfair, actually, that children get brainwashed into thinking there's an afterlife from a really young age. And that's really why people don't care about, most of our world is religious. And they think they're going to get a heaven after they die.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't care about curing aging. They're looking forward to dying. They're looking forward to getting old and dying. It's sad. It's sad.
The idea of an afterlife is obviously comforting, right? But I do think that we have to be careful not to, in some sense, commit the same sin of over-certainty that we're trying to disabuse people of, right? Like, I think, the true answer, I think the true human, honest answer is, I think, when it comes to these big questions, is, I don't know. It's possible that there's a sky wizard in space there with a beard in a chair who's going to put me in heaven or hell. It's possible. I don't think it's necessarily likely. So I don't think we should say, that's definitely wrong. There's no afterlife, right? What we can talk about is to give people the information to make their own assessments. Like, it's interesting to note that there's certain areas in the brain that you can stimulate with, transcranial magnetic stimulation that give people a sense that angels and stuff are talking to them. There's part of our hardware that is geared for the idea of an afterlife, most likely because it allowed, primordial man to deal with the crushing fact that you're going to die and not be paralyzed into not doing anything by that fear. So I think if you present people with that information, allow them to come to their own conclusions without forcing it down their throat, because then we'll alienate people.
It's also a really good thing to note, to touch on that, is the idea that people who are more, I'm going to choose my words very poorly here probably, susceptible to religious beliefs are also those who can easily be controlled. If you've ever read The Grand Inquisitor, you understand this whole concept of churches and organizations being able basically to control the masses. And by being able to do that, you can create societies that are very, very successful. You know, there's no doubt that there have been, you know, entire civilizations that have existed where most of the people were enslaved, imprisoned, subjected. And that is a successful way for humans to exist. So in many ways, we've evolved to accept religion, and many people have that disposition because it allows, you know, it allows perpetuation. And I think when people start to realize and understand that we are the result of religion is the result really of evolution, it starts to kind of, you know, fall into place a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. You know, the ideas of dharma and karma, for example, jump out as really obvious examples. You know, if you feel, you know, if you're in the lowest caste and you believe that if you just suck it up and do that for the rest of your life, when you die, you'll go to a higher level, it's a really great way to keep people in line. Not to say that that's actually what's going on, but it's worth looking that certainly seems to be one element of how those structures become in place.
Yeah, the entire concept of the meek shall inherit the earth. You know,
yeah. That ties into Nietzsche as well with the idea of, what was it, master versus slave mentality, right? How in the early days, you know, in the Odyssey and the Iliad, in that period of like Greek history, you know, the individual like bravery and forthrightness, those are the prized elements, right? But then as you move into later history, it's like the things that are prized are you like blending in and not stepping out of line, and you know, the sheep and all that kind of thing. So yeah, there's been a lot of smart people that have talked about this over the years.
Right. And kind of going back to tying this all into, when we're talking about spreading our messages, our PR messages, our marketing message, what's our mission? You know, is this a situation where there's just going to be some people who are never going to get it or want to get it? You know, are we preaching to people who would just rather believe, no matter what, that they're going to inherit the earth upon their physical death?
Well, I think, you know, that it is a powerful force, definitely, right? But I don't think we should, in some sense, overestimate how much it is a force of circumstance. Look at cosmetics, for example, right? How many billions of dollars are spent by people who are just trying to look younger, make their skin look younger? If in 10 or 15 years there's a makeup cream that actually makes your cells be younger, people will buy it. It just has to cross a certain threshold of like obviousness, like my neighbors all have it, I want it too. So I think those things can be overcome just by the inevitable march of, you know, if there is strides to be made in this kind of research, which I think, you know, we're on the cusp of that right now. So my point is that there is a way to convince, you know, there will be a tipping point, and I think it's coming in the next 20 to 30 years max.
I think Desiree made a great point, because basically, you know, if we're trying to appeal to religious people, we might just be speaking to deaf ears, like, and so we might actually have better luck if we catered our message more to an atheistic audience, or even tried to convert. See, there's a reason why most transhumanists and life extensionists are agnostics and atheists. So we might have better luck if we actually converted, made people lose their faith in God first. Then they're going to have enough motivation to strive to cure aging. So we might have to really actually try to push people into a more agnostic, atheistic mindset before they're even going to be receptive to this. So things that would promote atheism might indirectly promote life extension. So we need to start thinking about different ways we can actually destroy people's faith in God and the afterlife.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, but I do think that it might come off as a little too militant in that way and provoke a lot of sort of knee-jerk resistance to the idea, which maybe is a debate that would be fruitful and that kind of thing. But I think personally, my view of it is the better way, in a sense, is to just make the dissemination of knowledge much clearer and easier and engage people without saying, you know, you have to be religious. We're targeting the religious people to disabuse you, or we're targeting we're targeting people who have grandmothers, people who have children, you know, everybody. This is a human quest. And I think, you know, if we can engage people through, you know, things like crowdfunding and maybe even crowdsourced clinical trials, which is something that we're talking about with some of the labs that we're working with. I think that people can see it on their Facebook page and say, hey, I'm participating in this, you know, we're taking nicotinamide, resveratrol. It might make another 2 years. You know, there's a way to do it softly without forcing it, which, in my opinion, might be the better way to go, but open to everything.
And Keith, one thing you mentioned a little earlier had been that the Russian cosmists. I think they would be a very relevant group to this particular topic. I just recently finished George Young's book on them, and I posted a link to it up on our comments here. It's fascinating material, and of course they were a very odd combination of Christianity and what we would today call transhumanism. They were around way before there was any such thing as transhumanism in the mainstream, and they seem to be having quite a revival in Russia today. I would say that would I certainly can. There are a lot of problems with trying to convince many religious people of the concept of indefinite life extension. But I think that there are at least some people who would consider themselves Christians who would be reachable on this.
Yeah. So I think it's important to just position this as, you know, transhuman in the literal sense of just, you know, like transatlantic, like every human. This will affect every person, whether you're religious or not, regardless of what your beliefs are. You know somebody, you love somebody who is interested in this, and you should give them that chance.
And regardless of what your beliefs are, you should admit that you could be wrong. So if you're a Christian and you believe in God, or I mean, if you're a Muslim, you should admit that, look, you don't know that that's true, and so you should hedge your bets and not die, just in case.
Or if you want to put it in an even softer way, right? I mean, there's been a lot of studies about, you know, human cognitive biases and how one of the things that, like, human beings are remarkably bad at is predicting how you're going to feel about things in the future, right? So even if we don't even have to talk about the term forever, it's just like the question you should really ask is not, do you want to live forever? It's, do you want to live tomorrow? And do you suspect the answer to that question will change tomorrow? Like an induction thing, right? So give your future self the chance to decide whether he wants to die or he or she wants to die. You know, like, that choice is always available to you, rather than having that choice be made for you at some arbitrary point.
Absolutely.
And it's important to know, too, that we're not going to fix. I'm sorry, Matthew.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay. Just really quick, we're not ever going to fix death. People are still going to be hit by buses. People are still going to fall off of cliffs, and accidents are going to happen. We're all still mortal. We're not going to become instantly immortal. So, you know.
And I think part of the problem is people don't like to think too deeply into uncomfortable topics. Like, people don't like to think about death, even if that is a prerequisite for extending their own life.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think many people are actually disturbed. It would be so disturbing for some people to actually consider the fact that they once might not exist, and they invest a lot of that's the reason why they invest in the notion of a god. I suppose that's fairly obvious, but, you know, I think that is obviously true.
Yeah, I think in, like, anthropology or something like that, they call that terror management. It's one of the theories that all of human civilization is, you know, came about due to mitigating the knowledge that you will eventually die. You know, might be some reason for the motivation of why you want to leave a legacy. You want to have kids. You want to have a foundation that will give grants in your name. You know, you want to feel that there's some permanence that exists beyond you. You know, so I think that's definitely true.
And that's I mean, terror management theory. That's the main reason why humans have religion. It's so they can. It's the opium of the masses, right? As Karl Marx said. So it's like it's causing apathy regarding death. In fact, I really do think that most religious people are actually looking forward to their death. They've celebrate death because death is going to usher in their paradise. And so, me personally, I think part of my message is to get people to doubt. Just doubt. Learn how. I mean, that's the most basic way to. It's the most basic logic is to be able to doubt your beliefs and doubt. If you believe in God, you should doubt God. You know what I mean? And
I actually think that it's probably more advantageous to focus on celebrities like Ron mentioned earlier, and actually getting them, you know, focused on influencing their fan group or whatever their fan base, and I think you'd probably raise money a lot quicker that way. Because raising awareness is good, but unless it results in increased, you know, finances, if people don't actually give or support it with their money, you know, then it's not really going to advance any quicker.
And we have Roy here too. It looks like Roy might not be able to talk, but he's telling us in the chat room, death is also a celebration to some people that are simply unable to handle the idea of time. And I think that's a very salient point too. They can't imagine existing forever, and therefore they want finality.
yeah, and you know, I've interviewed a lot of people about living forever, and like I interview people on the streets. If you guys have seen an episode of my Eternal Life Fan Conversations show where I just interview people, and quite a few people think that they'd get bored. So sad. And that's why they don't want to live forever.
Yeah, well, that's part of the cognitive bias I mentioned before about people being bad at predicting how they feel about things in the future. You know, I think a classic example to that is, especially right about now, the rate at which new things are being generated in which that you could be doing is outstripping your sense of passage of time. You know, every day I'm sure there's a new crazy sport or a new kind of skydiving or something like that you could do. So as long as you're interested in life, I don't think you would ever get bored any differently than the way you get bored now.
Yeah, that's true, because I listen to much people saying, "Oh,
I think one of the reasons why people get bored with life is because they tend to fall into repetitive patterns of behaviour."
Yeah. Fabian, you were saying something?
Yeah, no problem. The other guy can keep talking. I can talk later. Hello? Are you listening?
Mm-hmm.
We can hear you.
Are you listening to me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so I don't believe in God, and but my family is really religious, and I think that turning people agnostic is essential to reach a good goal. But when I talk barely about softly, I heard a lot of people saying that, oh, maybe I can reach 200 years and I will be satisfied. I don't need more than this. But I'm pretty sure that when you reach 200 years, you're gonna want more 200 years. I think from now, you imagine that I don't want to be mortal because you're gonna take the bright of life. Life must have a reason. Why should I wake up every day if what's my goal in life? But I think they are really wrong, and I think it's a religious thing, because God wants you to die and meet the paradise. So I'm pretty sure we should convince people, or maybe I always use the soft approach to not scare people, but I think you should always avoid pseudoscience and bring people to agnostic point of view, or maybe atheistic, I don't know.
Yeah.
But religious and science, I can't do a deal with it.
Yeah, well, I think based on that, again, there's a way to engage with that sort of religious mindset without demonizing it, that uses its logic to in our advantage, I guess, in the sense of, I think if you're coming from that position, where like God has a plan and this is supposed to happen, I'm supposed to die, it's like, I think one thing that we can say, not aggressively but just logically, is, if that is your belief, then have conviction, have faith in the power of your Creator. Then that if you're really doing something He doesn't want you to do, He, being the All, the Ein Sof, etc., will put things to right. So if you really believe in an all-powerful Creator, He'd be able to, or he or she would be able to set whatever it is straight. So it's like, if you really have that conviction, it's not a logical problem at all.
I think Fabian, am I saying your name right? Fabian?
Yeah, you can say it this way. Actually, in Brazil, you say Fabiani.
Oh.
Fabiani? Is that right, Fabiani? Okay.
Yeah, you can say. Anyway.
Okay, I think you're so right when you said we need to, turn people into agnostic position at least, right? Ideally, because think about this. When I'm interviewing people, the #1 reason people give for why they wouldn't want to support anti-aging research and cure aging is the afterlife. That's the #1 reason I get, and it's because, think about it, most religious people, they're Gnostics. Okay, they don't just believe in God, they think they know that God exists. Whereas on the atheists, most atheists are agnostic atheists, such as myself, which is that we don't believe in God, but we don't say we know. So most religious people have this false certainty that their beliefs are true, and it's a fact. And this is what we need to get rid of. We need to help people learn how to think, and which is that if you're a thinking person, then you should admit what you don't know for sure. But religious people, they're pretending to know for sure that there's a God, and that's why they're not going to care about life extension. They're looking forward to their death because that's going to give them their paradise, and this is a problem. We need to teach them how to think.
I agree with that, but all I'm saying is I think we need to be careful. The transhumanist movement needs to be careful to not do the same thing, to make not the message of transhumanism, like there is no God absolutely and we should be doing this, but the real transhumanist message should be this honest embracing of, these are the things that we don't know, and based on those unknowns, these are the best logical steps to maximize the happiness for everyone until we know more, and then as we know more, we'll make reassessments. Like that's the logical position there, not like there is no God, yada yada yada. I'm going to tell you what to think.
Absolutely, agnosticism. That's the key right there.
Rory in the chat room is reminding us that maybe some religious people, some Christians, need to be reminded that the Bible actually supports life extension and eternal life. And I think really the thing that both people who are religious, transhumanists, life extensionists, etc., we're all really kind of looking for the same goal. We just choose to take different paths to get there. And for some reason, one might believe that their path is better than the other one. And it just kind of circles back to this whole idea of, as long as we're tolerant of everybody else, we all win. It's when religious people would stand in our way, or we might stand in somebody else's way. That's where you have the conflict. And I think it might be a little bit of just it goes back down to fear, because if you can imagine a world where there's a pill, and by taking that pill, you're going to extend your life forever, 1,000 years, whatever you want to make that be, you either choose it or you don't. What is that going to do to religion, who's trying to sell people that if you have faith, you're going to have eternal life? So you have the pill or you have faith. I mean, this quite literally could be the end of faith, because people who are going to take that pill are going to become the biggest populace. So I think what it kind of boils down to is just fear of something like that happening among people who do have faith.
Ah, well said. Absolutely. And you said Jesus promoted life extension.
Roy said that in the chat room. I was reading his quote. He said some Christians need to be reminded that the Bible actually supports life extension and eternal life on earth.
Yeah, and well, Jesus actually said, "He who keeps my saying will never die." Is that the verse he's talking about? Well, anyways, okay. So transhumanism, the goal is to become like a god, right? Turn ourselves into gods. And Jesus actually said in the Bible, he said, "Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect." That's a direct quote from Jesus. And so isn't that basically like supporting the transhumanist goal of wanting to become a god, is being perfect like a god? Gods are perfect, right? And so I just think that's interesting.
I think the important takeaway from what we're saying here is that, you know, everyone has to be honest in that a lot of what's passed for as, you know, traditional religion now is a matter of interpretation, and that's been interpreted a variety of different ways since the dawn of religion, and that ideas such as, you know, perfection of the self and longer life, you know, these are not opposed. Like that's the key thing that I wanted to kind of bring to the table here, is that they don't need to be enemies. The idea of like the historicity of, you know, like Jesus was a dude who was this old, who did this exactly, and this, etc. It's like that's like a modern phenomenon. You know, like the earliest Christians and the earliest, you know, Zoroastrianism people, like that wasn't the way. Like it was understood that these were sort of metaphors and mystical symbols to get you in touch with the sense of the universal and divine and sublime. So, and those ideas are totally compatible with some transhumanist ideas. So I just think that's an important thing, is that I understand, you know, the idea that you know, you want to really take on people and convince them of their certainty, which I get, but I also feel like it's important to make this not a holy war. It doesn't need to be, in my opinion.
Well, it's also for themselves, you know, because I want to see them live forever. And as long as they think there's an afterlife, as long as they're so sure of it, then they're probably going to be fine with accepting their own death one day, and they're going to die and probably cease to exist, in my opinion. I think that's what happens to people when they die.
Like a friend. It's like if you have a best friend who, like, you know, smokes cigarettes all day, and you don't want them to get cancer. It's like you can present them with the information, you know, but you can't force it on them.
Well, yeah, you can't force anyone to believe anything, you know. But yeah.
Well, you know, or just respect them, you know, as, you know, a human respecting another human, respecting their capability to make their own decisions, even if it's one that you think is stupid.
Well, I kind of feel a sense of pity and sorrow for them, because I realize these people got their beliefs when they were little children. All right, so they were brainwashed into a death cult, and so I feel like a moral duty to unbrainwash them from their cult that's ultimately going to end with their oblivion.
I think, can I say this? I think part of it is socioeconomic deficiencies. People turn to religion when they're poor and broken, and then the religion targets those people and gets them to give up 10% of the meager funds they have left and invest all their emotional eggs into their basket.
Well said. I agree with that.
I just wanted to add that a few people in the chat room are making some very salient points and comments. Catrick cites the movie The Man from Earth from 2007. The premise being, what if that was a person who lived really, really long and preached things from experience just trying to mix religion and life extension. So that's something that people might want to check out. And Robert, I just wanted to tell you that I noticed that when your mic was on, it was causing some feedback with some of the other people. So I did mute you for a little while there. I'm sorry about that. And he just notes that Bertrand Russell once spoke to a religious woman whose daughter had recently died. When asked what she thought her daughter was experiencing, she said, "I'm sure she's experiencing eternal bliss, but I'd rather not talk about such unpleasant subjects." So I just wanted to share those quotes from the chat room with everybody.
Yeah. I mean, have you all seen like those Pew research polls, etc., that are showing, you know, like religious belief is declining in America, right? So, I mean, if you really want to see it as kind of like it's an either-or thing between transhumanism and religion, I mean, there's that to keep in mind, and I think the important point or question to ask is why. And I would like to believe that the answer to why is the vast ability for information to disseminate in, you know, modern technology assisted ways. So I think that that's kind of, it will inevitably happen. Like, again, once the first therapy comes out that's just a pill and you can take it and live 20 years longer and it's safe, and, you know, some people have started taking it and it works, I think once it becomes to that level, it will just trigger a cascade of, at some point, it'll be like your measles shots, where it's just like, oh, everyone does it. So using those things as sort of precedents, I feel like those are examples where it just became the de facto thing without any kind of overt war on religion or anything like that. You know, everyone gets, or most people now, get their shots. You know, polio vaccines, that kind of thing. So I feel like once it becomes a no-duh like that, people will be sort of softly and immediately convinced that, okay, you know, I'll, just like you take your multivitamins. I mean, research is now showing that maybe multivitamins aren't even necessary. But I'm still taking it because I've just been so used to that message of the Flintstone kids, take your pills. You know? So if at some point this just becomes like a multivitamin, it'll just happen. And I think our question is just how do we get it there sooner, and I think the answer is to get people exposed to this research, get people involved, crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, and pick those projects that are the most easy to understand and clear to see why they would be useful. You know, something like, you know, stopping Alzheimer's disease. Everyone's got skin in the game on that. You know, so, and I think also, although it's maybe not good to say this, you know, people tend to do things when money's on the line, right? And because of things like the Gray tsunami and the healthcare crisis, it's like if we don't get on this in the next 20 years, like it's going to happen at some point because our economy is going to crash if we don't get on it. And at that point, the powers that be will start being like, okay, we got to get on this, otherwise everyone's going to go bankrupt. So, you know, we should be aware of those trends and see how we can sort of leapfrog on those, get on those earlier, put that part of our message so we can convince, you know, the powers that be, convince, you know, all the players who have skin in the game, because we ultimately all will.
And
a lot of this, oh, sorry, you go. I don't want to interrupt. You go.
I'm sorry. Eric is kind of texting me back and forth too here in Facebook, and he wants me to just, and this piggybacks with what you've been saying, Keith. What do you think people can individually do, whether they're a professional or a lay person, to actually help and advance the cause? Like, what are the action points? What are the nuts and bolts of what people can do you think?
Right. Well, not just to hawk what we're trying to do. You know, once we launch Lifespan.io, one of the things that people can do is crowdfund projects and spread the word. Before that, on a personal level, try to find out the people that are nearest or most accessible to you that are working on this research, be it a big place like SENS or Harvard or certain community biotech labs in California like Berkeley Biolabs, Counterculture Labs, GenSpace in New York. People are trying to work on these things and maybe launch their own, you know, even if it's a Kickstarter or something like that. And I think it's, don't make the assumption that everybody has it all together. People need help. Even big institutions like SENS need help. So if you have any kind of skill, you know, you're great at video editing, you can mix an awesome theme song, etc. Whatever skill you have, reach out to Aubrey de Grey, reach out to Harvard and be like, I have time, I have this skill, how can I help you get your message out? And people need that. I need that. If any of you have skills and you want to help us with our crowdfunding launch, let me know. You know, like network. It's people need it. So that's simple, I think. Yeah.
I'd like to add that I posted some links from Eric on how people can contribute, take action, volunteer, do research, etc. And Roy's in the chat room with some really great ideas: running for office, volunteering, get educated, and sharing knowledge, which is, you know, what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I think another thing we can do is promote the transhumanist party. Let's get Zoltan Istvan for president. You know, a president who actually cares about life extension, a president who understands the value of human life, existence, and preserving our existence. Like, a government should care about extending the life of its citizens indefinitely. Like, that's we have a right to live as human beings, and Zoltan Istvan gets that. So, hey, if we can get Zoltan Istvan as president, maybe not this time, but maybe the next time, you know, maybe at some point. So spread the transhumanist party, and he has a campaign, and he needs funding, and as well as Sen's Foundation. Let's spread the message of Sen's Foundation, and then just on a personal level with your close with your circle of friends, let's get people to doubt God. Let's get people to become agnostics, at the very least. Let's get them to not be so sure that there's a God, because that's going to make people more motivated to
I think in a broader sense of that same thing, it's just, I think what you really want to instill in people is to just have a healthy skepticism of their own thoughts in all regards, and to always question their own logic. So it doesn't even just have to be specific to this God issue. It's just that you should never be 100% certain of anything when it comes to like policy decisions. Always question, always get more information, and that should be part of the transhumanist model of humanity.
I agree. But when it comes to God, I mean, God is kind of a central thing, especially when it comes to this issue of aging and death, because it deals so much with mortality. And if people are so sure, I mean, it's specifically we need to get people to doubt God, because if people are so sure that there's a God and so sure that God's going to save them in heaven, they're not going to really care at the end of the day. They're not going to care about curing aging. They're not going to really care about ending death.
God is overrated.
Well, and I just posted a link to the Church of Perpetual Life. There are religions out there that support the cause. So I think we just do maybe need to be careful to put every religion and every person of faith and every organization of faith into one basket, because that's not necessarily the case.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Mormon transhumanists, they're a good example of people who believe in God, but they're really into life extension. Yeah. So, absolutely, I agree.
I guess in broad, sweeping terms is what, I personally would like to see as a blossoming of this movement is to make it something that's not where divisiveness is not its core tactic, but inclusiveness. Of this is a way that a mission or a quest that humanity has always been engaged in, and we all are affected by it, and we would all benefit from more information and more choices. So let's all work together to seize this truly incredible and amazing moment in history that we're lucky enough to be a direct part of.
And let's think about this for a second. Religion can be a lot more damaging than we might even suspect. Because think about what's happened in the past. When George Bush was president, what did he do? He made it so that stem cell therapy wasn't passed. That set us back. It resulted in the death of so many people. And so the same thing could happen again if we get some religious, a religious zealot as a president. They can outlaw life extension. They can do crazy things that can set us back and make it so that we're not going to extend our lives. Religion can be very damaging. We got to get people to vote the right people into office. Someone like Zoltan Istvan, as opposed to some religious person.
I'm just talking about pure messaging here. Right? I agree with a lot of what you're saying as far as the end result, but it's all about positioning and how you can engage people, because we're talking about the others, right? Not the echo chamber, not the people that are already on board. We're trying to, how do we engage in dialogue the people that are predisposed against this, right? So I think because that's the assumption of what we're talking about here, is we have to make it clear that, you know, it's not an attack, or we want to make it a positive thing. Like, this is how you improve your logic, not how you are wrong in what you're doing over there. You know, it's the same thing. It's all about messaging, right?
And I do want to quickly note that we do have Josh here with us now.
Josh, hey, I mean to ask you something. Are you, like, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Matthew.
Yeah, his microphone's off. Oh, okay. Okay. So, I'm writing a cryonics musical, and you and Kim are characters in it, and I wanted to get your approval from it. Your approval, so in case it's like, shit. I think he's off.
Okay, I just really want to take a quick moment and welcome some of the new people that have joined us. We have Ivan and Chris. We've got some people coming and going. You guys, welcome to the group. Let me know when you're ready to go. We'll have you talk for a little bit, hold up your sign, tell us why and how you got interested in life extension. We have some people leaving too. Unfortunately, we can't all stay here because we're only limited to 10 people at a time. So we'll wait for them to join us. Roy is with us. Roy is talking in the chat room a lot, and he's bringing some great points to the table. He's talking about if life extension bills are put into circulation all the time, and we need to be aware that voting for a single issue party doesn't change that. It just covers up the rest of what's going on. Josh also says, I think it's much easier to focus on more tangible problems. Very few people push back when you say that we need more research to cure Alzheimer's or AIDS. It's humanitarian goals like these that have always led to greater scientific understanding and technological progress. And then Roy also says, think about the current bill for the TPP. If Zoltan allows it, pharmacy will make medicine impossible for regular people to afford. We will live on a life debt.
My personal hope for the future of life extension is that life extension can be something that's offered to everyone for free. I mean, I hope it gets to that point. I mean, it's very idealistic and it's going to be a ways off, but hopefully it's like the next extension of welfare. We can't leave people to get old and die, you know, if they couldn't afford it, for instance. And so that's my hope, is that we could have some kind of socialized medicine system of a government. And I think Zoltan Istvan is in favor of this, so that no one would die from aging if they didn't want to. I hope it can get to that point one day at least.
Yeah. I think what you just mentioned there is actually going to be of growing importance going forward, because I think, you know, in the next 10 or 20 years, the feasibility of this is going to ramp up, and I think some people will start to be convinced that it's possible. But then I think the next frontier of kind of public debate or public worry that we're going to have is, okay, so life extension is a reality, but is it going to be for me or just for the rich people? So I think, you know, we need to start thinking about that, and how do we make sure that as we transition into this technology, it is in an equitable way.
That's correct. I mean, I just think there are many topics like space, traveling to space, and many advanced science things which are just accessible to rich people. So many must be having the doubt in their mind that it is just for the rich, not for the common people.
that's why, again, why I really want to move towards things kind of like crowdsourced clinical trials and that kind of thing, where anybody can be involved in it for $10 or whatever. So that's personally where I want to try to move things.
If it can be like a 3D printer, there are expensive 3D printers. 3D printer is like a very recent technology. 3D printer, when it was launched, it was very expensive, but now there are crowdfunding campaigns. There are different groups who are trying to do this in a cheaper way. So if it can be you like a 3D printer, that okay, if there are expensive ways, there are cheaper ways, different groups doing it in different ways, then it will be better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So to Eric's point earlier, again, let me take the time then to recommend that everybody who's watching, try to find out what citizen science endeavors are in your area. I know there's at least some in New York and California, but a lot of the equipment that you need to do serious kind of tests like this are really dropping in cost. People at GenSpace, for example, they made Opentrons, which is like a very cheap liquid handling robot that can do all kinds of experiments. Another friend of mine at GenSpace made like a centrifuge that you can make with like household tools. So there are initiatives out there where you can learn the biotech and get the equipment that you need to actually, one, understand what's going on here, and two, maybe come up with ways to help DIY this, open source this kind of thing, to make sure that, again, eventually it's not just in a walled garden for the rich, which I think is very important. And there's an active community, I'm sure, somewhere near wherever you are, if you look it up. So try to become informed in those and get involved in those initiatives.
And it looks like we have some new people who have joined us. Liga, I hope I'm saying that right. And we still have Ivan and Chris here too. Just so you know, guys, we would love for you to actually join us. I'm not sure if it's on your end, or I can see you. Thank you for holding up your sign. We would love to see you hold up your sign. We'd love to hear from you. So if you can, if it's possible, please turn on your mic and your video camera. I can activate you here too. I don't know if you're doing this by choice or if you're doing this because you're having technical difficulties. So you can see your little icons for your microphone and your camera. So we would love to have you hold up your sign, talk to us, and interact with us. And it looks like we have Siddhartha too. That goes for. So yeah, and if everybody has their sign and they want to hold it up really quick again, because that's what it's all about, is holding up our signs and letting people know, demonstrating, making a stand that say that we support life extension and we want to end death.
We support life extension and we want to end death.
Yay!
We support life extension and we want to end death. I want to live longer, and I want my relatives, my loved ones, to live as long as possible.
Death is the worst thing that can happen to you. If you die and cease to exist, in my opinion, your life is meaningless.
Well, I mean, if you can live longer and if you're not living longer, then it's a pity on you.
So what do you say to people who say, well, that's it. That's why I don't want to live forever, because I'm going to be without my loved ones. Especially as people get older, they tend to become, more depressed because they see the people that were around them that they've grown up with, their peers, who passed. What do you say to people who don't want to live forever because they want to join their loved ones?
Excellent question. I would say they don't. They have not properly thought out the value of living forever. It's so valuable. The idea of living forever is so important and valuable that you should be willing to live forever, even if you had to suffer while living, you know, like even if your life was filled with the suffering of loss of loved ones. You should love life. You should love your life unconditionally, because it's too important. So the people who would want to die to, you know, because they couldn't endure the suffering of their dead loved ones and everything, they just don't get the value of eternal life. It's like a priceless treasure that you should be willing to make any sacrifice for. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think that's
What
also.
I
Oh, sorry, sit up. You go.
what I okay, you can think it.
Whoops, we might have lost him.
Yeah, I think we lost him.
Keith, did you have something that you were going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, everything that was just said makes sense, obviously. But if you want to just address the very specific issue of I want to be reunited with my loved ones in the afterlife, I think that you can respect that, right? It's hard to argue with that one. But one thing that I think you can say is we don't have enough information right now. We don't know if there's an afterlife or not. If you live another 1,000 years, who knows? Maybe you'll find out that there's a way to actually communicate with those who passed. Who knows? Who knows? Or you'll have more information at any rate. So why take a gamble when you might lose everything and never be reunited with your loved ones, or stick around to find out maybe more information about that?
Very true. And I just wanted to add here, Roy in the chat room is saying that they understand the pain of losing someone, so why cause that pain by losing yourself? Support life extension to stop others from suffering the loss of family. And he says he's dropping out. He's dropping out of the room, and that he loves us. Thank you, Roy.
That was a really good point.
And we have Nicholas here too. I just wanted to say hi to Nicholas and thank you for joining us. And if you have a sign to hold up, that would be great. And if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself. Yay!
Anyway, I'm Nick. I'm a computer programmer in Southern California, and I'm surrounded by doctors and people in the medical establishment and just various tech heads and I have, it's sort of preaching the choir in my circles a lot of time, talking about life extension. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, great. So for me, I don't get to deal with a lot of the religious fanatics and stuff. It'd be great sometimes to be on that front line, but I mean I just can't take it. I don't have a lot of personal time for that. So I mean it would be great to devise some sort of ability to contribute to speaking to the public in a way that doesn't make it so I can't survive myself. Because I have to make a living, and so I'm trying to figure out how to work in my support for life extension technologies. For me, it's sort of like a dirty secret. It's like, oh yeah, I would love for there to be an engineered virus that could go through and reinfect my DNA with a younger version of myself. There's all these things I would love to have happen, and I'm always thinking about these strategies and stuff. But you can't just go out and talk to people because it's like it has this flare up, and then there's this emotional crisis, and and that takes time out of my day. And so I've talked to Eric, and I found Shulk, and I talked to a few people around that I found because I'm always very vocal. I mean, lately I'm much more vocal about life extension than I have been in the past. Because I'm just kind of owning up to the fact that it doesn't make me a freak. And so, and it's it is a really weird thing. I mean, try going on a date and talking about life extension. I mean, it's almost like a scarlet letter. It's I don't know how to make it more acceptable. It's not Dungeons and Dragons. It's it's reality, and it's more real than God and all this religious ever has actually been, and it's more scientifically provable and doable than all the fantasies that we made up for ourselves. So it is super real. I mean, it's almost too serious. I mean, but like it's so. I guess I think people are just at some point. I think I've talked to some people, but at some point, like people just like everybody's the same. Like when they're like 2, 3 years old, like everybody has these same questions, like our fears that they're going to die, and somebody comes along and says, "Oh, it's going to be okay." But I think that that's still inside everybody, like that they're afraid, you know, and that like I was listening to you guys earlier about the fear management. This idea that like most of our culture is based around like this fear management thing, and I completely 100% agree. You know, our culture would be fantastically different if everybody wasn't terrified of dying constantly. And like I feel like that's what like is going on around like our watered down conversation, water cooler talk, and like how's the weather? All that is like fear of dying. And so we the people here are like human beings. Like we're actually speaking to each other. We're like humans. Like the rest of the people they've given up their humanity. That's what I think is going on here. Like we're acknowledging who we are. We're still the 3-year-old, you know. We're still like the people who when we were, you know, came into this world, and we didn't like have a logical disconnect at some point. We're still connected, and so we're like pure humans, you know. And like that's like I would love to meet more people like you guys. It's like for me, it's like, you know, I'm still existing in this world where everybody is crazy and we're the sane ones. And how do we bring more people into sanity? And like I was supposed to go to a life extension conference in Northern California today, but I couldn't couldn't afford the plane ticket for this. I'm gonna have to wait for some more money. So you know, how am I supposed to go to Northern California on short-term notice? But like it looks like a really great life extension conference. I would really like to meet more people in this sort of field, and so I'm really happy. I'm grateful for you guys that you're doing this. And one other point that I want to bring up and let somebody else go, I just want to introduce myself, is that I also have friends that are on this other sort of like branch of eternal life, or like just of healthy like maintenance, and that's like people who want to upload their brains into computers, right? Okay, and this to me is complete absurdity, but it's absurd enough that like the safe practical means of life extension to me is biologically extending life. The safe and reasonable and next step is biologically sustaining the bodies that we have for few hundreds of years. If you want to upload your brain into a computer, you know, we're nowhere near there. Like that, we're nowhere even being able to approach that question of whether that's going to still be you. That's hundreds of years off. So the safe and practical means to me of life extension is for one thing, we're reverse engineering. We already have life extension. People are born young. So we're just reverse engineering something we already have the answer to. Okay, this is the question that like is right and staring us in the face. So like for me, like the step one is just extending our biological machines that are like a couple steps ahead of a car to give us those extra 100 years, and then we can go from there. But so I've got all these, you know, the brain uploader people in that camp, and I'm trying to like pull them in and say, come join this camp because we can get a lot more done if we, you know, stay together. You know, like, so that's just something I would like to like address at some point as a group. And hi, you guys.
Wow.
Thank
Hi, Nicholas.
Hi.
Wow, you really hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I totally agree with everything you said there. Like that was like coming from like that's just like what I would want to say. Like, oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. Like fear of death, you are so right. Like I totally fear death, and it's like the childlike you were saying, like we're still children. Like that's totally right. Like we fear death, and we just admit that how horrible it is, you know. And most people they develop some kind of psychological coping mechanism to deal with it. But we're like being honest and saying, no, this is freaking horrible.
Yeah, right.
And yeah.
Well,
And
when you don't make that logical disconnect, I think you become smarter. Because when you're constantly, like, say your brain, like I'm always programming computers, right? Say your brain makes this logical disconnect at some point, and now everything is built on top of this logical disconnect, and you're constantly trying to be logical, but you always have to maintain this other, like, fork of logic. And so you're spending more energy maintaining this fork all the time. But if you're honest with yourself, then everything connects back. And so you don't have to maintain it, take as much energy, like, reasoning things out. So we get to be smarter because we're allowing ourselves to use our whole brains. You know.
Wow, I've never thought about it that way.
Jump in here really quick because we're running out of time, and it sucks because now the conversation is just kind of taken on a whole new breath again. But we do have some people who did just join us, so I want to give them a chance. We've got Paul and Valkyrie. If you guys want to jump in and say hi, if you have signs to hold up, we'd love to see them.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Valkyrie.
There's Paul's sign. Thank you.
I don't have a camera, so no signs, unfortunately.
Okay. If either of you want to just tell us a little bit quickly about yourselves and why you support Life Extension?
Well, can you hear me okay? I'm not sure if this is push to talk or not.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm an author. I've done quite a bit of writing for Humanity Plus magazine, several other magazines. I specialize mainly in technological forecasting and how technology is going to alter the very near future. And one of the reasons that I've been involved in Life Extension is because, well, I've always had the feeling from the very beginning that we were approaching the day with medical technology where life extension would be feasible and possible, and every year that goes by proves me to be more and more right about that. So I've never looked at dying as something that I wanted to do, even when I was a good little Christian and believing, that you had to die to go get your good rewards in heaven. So I can't really say that I ever had a point in time where I had to teach myself to look forward to a long life as opposed to looking forward to death. But that's one thing that I can definitely say. Too many people are programmed from the moment they're born to think that, oh, well, I'm going to die someday, so I might as well accept it now.
And I just got word that we can actually, if we want, extend this. If everybody's having a good time with the conversation, it will record for longer. So I'm willing to hang out probably a little bit longer if everybody else would like to chat some more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then, Paul, did you have anything that you'd like to add? Can't hear you, Paul. My control panel here sometimes wigs out a little bit. But anyway, I can't hear you, Paul. I don't know if it's on my end or your end. Also, Chris, Ivan, if you guys want to add anything too, I am monitoring the chat room, so if people can't speak, I will try to pass on their messages for them. Ivan did say earlier that he can't join the conversation, but he did want to say that himself and a couple of other people are trying to create a TP in Croatia, and that it's hard because of primitivism and it's ex-war-torn country, but we're trying, and he does give a Facebook page in the chat room if you guys want to check it out.
Well, a lot of people have trouble thinking in terms of having a long life because, quite simply, when it comes down to it, everything in their experience leads them to think that it's hopeless, that there is no way, and they don't ever get shown any of the technology that we're in the process of creating. So most of the time I've discovered that people, when I've talked to them, and I tell them, well, there's a very good chance that in the very near future you're going to be able to live hundreds of years, they always look back at stories of, oh, yeah, well, but I don't want to be a 100-year-old, 300-year-old decrepit person, falling apart, or, oh, it would really, really suck, to outlive all of my friends and relatives, and they don't, think in terms of this being something that everyone could have. They always think that it's, oh, well, only one or two people or a few people can have it. It's not something that everyone can look forward to. And because of that, it's going to be, horrible for these people who are living thousands of years. I mean, think about all the old television shows, Highlander and, the vampires. It's all about, oh, the sadness of being an immortal, and having thousands of years that you're living, and how terrible it is, that you're going to have to, learn to love over and over again as the people around you die. And nobody ever really thinks about the fact that this is everybody doing this, not just one or two, 3 dozen people or so.
Yeah, there's actually a show like that on right now called Forever.
Yeah, but I mean, we are getting to see in Hollywood a kind of thinking about living forever, even if you're getting a bit more negative connotations than you might really want them to be. You're having to deal with them at least looking at it, even if it's not always in the most positive benefit. At least it's getting out there, and the people are thinking about it, even if only in the terms of entertainment value.
Unless you're talking about vampires, and then they love it.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to mention on that point about Hollywood now is getting into this. Chappie, the movie Chappie is like the best movie ever for transhumanism. It's just really awesome. It's all about the wanting to preserve your life and the fear of death, and but it did have some bad parts. It actually promoted the idea of mind uploading, and I'm actually, like Nicholas said, okay, I'm like Nicholas. He gave a great point about mind uploading is so hypothetical. It is totally not where the focus should be. The focus should be on anti-aging and make sure our biology.
If we're on a life raft, right, and then and we're talking about how we're gonna get to the next floating something that's gonna save us. The mind uploading, converting into a computer, or saving your that's 50 floating buoys off. What's right in front of us is extending our biology and helping our DNA and stuff like that. I mean, those are attainable solutions.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've explained to quite a few people, is when you comes right down to it, cancer is an example of what we need to be looking at, because cancer basically is created by 2 genetic flaws. One of them turns the cell on so that it does nothing but reproduce and reproduce and reproduce. And normally this has a self-destruct mechanism. We all know about telomeres. The length of the telomere determines how long the cell lives. The second mutation that causes cancer causes a telomere to be re-added for every one that's removed, which makes the cancer cell effectively immortal. They've already done studies in mice of adding the gene that causes the telomeres, and it's caused various forms of slowing down of aging effects. And when you tell people that this is where they're at right now, they start thinking, hey, wait a minute, maybe, there is something to this whole, life extension. And when, most of the arguments that I run into is all about, oh, well, your mind loses plasticity as you get older. Oh, who wants to be a 3,000-year-old old guy? And, and when you start telling them that, no, you're talking about probably being in, the fitness that you were at 25 for who knows how many hundreds of years, this is not fantasy. This is, we're not talking about just life extension into a horrible future, where you're constantly more dependent on machines and medicine and everything else. We're talking about putting you into the prime of your life again, the time that you were feeling your best and feeling your strongest, and keeping you there for as long as you want to. to the point where, hey, if you want to go out, and climb a few hundred mountains and spend, a year or two out in the wilderness, you'll be in perfect health to do it. Not, oh, well, I can only think about doing this virtually, or I can only do it, with somebody wheels my wheelchair out there. We're so entranced with, the idea that, you can't have immortality without bad side effects. And when you start, that's one of the things that you've got to fight against is the whole thought that, oh, well, you can't get something for nothing, if you're going to get extra life, well, it's got to be at some horrendous cost that makes it not worth it. And, that's just part of the programming that we've been, forced to think of all of our lives.
Well, this is one of those points where I think a little bit of information presented in the right way will go a long way, because statistically, I mean, the way it works is that there is no way to get life extension without health extension. Once you get to that point of decrepitude, just, you have a very high percentage chance of dying on the given year. So even if you were frozen at that point, you wouldn't make it longer than 10 years because you're going to get a bad bounce statistically. So it's actually impossible to have that Tithonus situation where you're decrepit forever. Like, just statistically, it will never happen. So I think if we had a nice, video that explained that, make it virally shareable. It's one of the things I'm also working on, is like a series of videos that make very digestible points like that, because that's just one that's like a low-hanging fruit. Like, statistically impossible, that will never happen.
Yeah. I like to say something about the brain, the brain decaying issue that I've seen a lot of places lately. It's so odd to me still that people are even against this issue, and that they even come up with reasons to be against it. But anyway, so the brain decaying issue. I just looked it up. If you guys heard of the ship of Theseus, I think it's I'm saying it right. The ship of Theseus, where you take a thing. This is something that should be like well known to us. But you take a thing and you replace each part of it one by one, and then at what point does it become a new thing? Okay. So a brain. So if you were to do that to your brain, so I'm saying worst case scenario, our brain is the ship of Theseus. This is the absolute worst case scenario. We could not repair our brain. So in that worst case scenario, we could replace parts of it with new tissue. And new tissue we could definitely grow, because we can grow any kind of new tissue we want already right now in a dish. But so say you had to do that. Say that was the worst case scenario. You would replace your entire brain periodically over a period of time, and you would be a ship of Theseus. You might not know at which point you became a new person, but your experience of that would probably be a unit. It would probably be a seamless.
That's the continuity of experience argument. Basically, that if you've got a complete continuous memory of the experience, it's still you, as opposed to having the disconnect. Oh, well, you fell asleep over here in this body, and then you woke up over here in this body. Are you sure that you didn't actually die and you're just a copy? I've had this
right. Continuity makes me comfortable.
Have you read?
I'm sorry, you broke up.
Have you read Forever for All by Mary?
Go ahead, Matthew. Turn off your volume. We're getting feedback. We can hear you.
Okay. I'm just saying. There's a that describes the analogy of a building, where you replace a building piece by piece, brick by brick, until an entirely new material. You can see the same building, but if you tear it down all at once and then rebuild it from the foundation, then it's a different building altogether. I don't really agree with it, but closest analogy.
Yeah. On that point of the ship of Theseus, etc., that has to do also with the mind situation. I think the key thing there is to realize that there are a lot of fundamental definitions that are lacking, like what is consciousness, etc. So, although I think that would be a good thing to explore, like Nicholas was saying, in 100 years, there are a lot of unknowns in that scenario right now that don't make me comfortable. Like you were mentioning continuity. There's the destructive copy problem. You know, maybe there will be a copy of me that thinks it's me, but I'm dead. And that's personally not. So I think there's a lot of convincing that needs to happen on that part.
Really interrupt you. I have a feeling it's magic. For some reason, I can't get connected to my mic. Can you your mic? Keith, go ahead.
Yeah, is the feedback still there? I think someone's buzzing. Are we good?
No,
okay.
I'm still.
I think we're better now.
Okay.
I still hear it.
Yeah, so basically, the summary of my point is, I feel like Nicholas said, there's still a lot of work to be done on the nature of consciousness and really kind of down definitions before we can even have a discussion about whether mind is a possibility. I'd like to have that conversation, but I don't think we're there yet. So Nicholas is saying biological life is currently where I think things should be.
Yeah, I could come up with a list if people want it. Things like the differences between digital processing and neural processing, the difference between a brain, the fact that your brain actually extends through your entire body, it's not just your brain, the fact that we fill a niche in the universe, the fact that we eat and we actually use energy from food. There's so many things that create that go into the process of living and our experience of living that is just it's completely different from what we know now as computers. That I don't even think we can approach it, in my opinion.
Embodied cognitive.
Yeah, like that kind of like changing to a different being, like existing inside of a computer. I don't think would even. I mean, you wouldn't even consider yourself human. You would have a different paradigm of reality. You wouldn't have a face and arms. Everything would be so different. I don't think it's worth. And plus, attainability-wise, that's not even attainable anyway. So, I mean, that's why. But there's still a lot of smart people who want that for whatever reason. And so those people, I'd love to be able to kind of pull them in and say, hey, like maybe you can still have that if that's what you want to live in a video game. But like, but maybe you can help us because you're just like really extreme out there. But we could use some of that support, you know.
Yeah. I mean, people like well, you know, they have.
Yeah. We tend to look at it. I think we figured out that it might.
I can't hear anyone. Everything's feedbacky.
Can you mute your mic?
I did that. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so I was saying, like, Kurzweil has his points, some of which are valid in their own way. Like, one of the points that he made when I talked to him one time was, you know, if we're trying to colonize Mars, what's financially potentially easier, you know, terraforming the whole planet or, you know, making a body that we can embody that can survive Mars's climate. So, like, those are some of the other kind of points of why they want to do that kind of uploading thing. Again, interesting, but based on what Nicholas was talking about is, I just feel like we need to really pin down, you know, what's consciousness based on the continuity. When you get anesthesia and you come back, you know, are you a new being then? Are you a new being when you go to sleep and wake up? Like, a lot of these questions are still being bandied about. Like, we know so little about that to make the leap that you can upload your consciousness when you haven't even defined what it is yet is problematic. Again, maybe we'll get there, but I personally would not do that right now without being seriously convinced.
And isn't that what the 2045 movement's all about? It's all about uploading yourself to some avatar. It's just crazy.
I can tell you, my friend's back in Maryland. He said, or in Virginia, Ray Kurzweil. He says Ray Kurzweil is a weenie, and he wants to throw Rotten Tomatoes at uploaders. And whenever we're hearing about something, wherever we hear something in the news about uploaders, we're always like, uploaders.
Wow,
Sorry.
this is so cool. This is like, oh, I'm so happy to know that there's like a lot of other people that are really into the biological and not the uploading. You know, I mean,
Thank you.
I've been talking about this on the Eternal Life fan club, right? And now, but I'm actually getting to see other people like actually talk about it, and oh gosh, it's been on my mind. It's just been annoying me that so many people are all focused on this uploading and mine files, and I'm like, that's not gonna give you eternal life. You're not gonna be able to transfer your consciousness into a freaking computer chip.
As David Stiles says, that's Plan E.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
not Plan A, not Plan B. It's Plan E.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it would work, but what I'm trying to say is that like we don't even have the vocabulary defined properly to even assess whether it works or not right now. So it's definitely far away.
But it also gets a lot of traction in the news and stuff, and since it's such a weak argument and it's so easy, it's such a weak argument to attack. It detracts from us and what we're trying to accomplish, and so it does piss me off a lot too. And I have sort of the same opinion.
Well, there's also another problem with the media that I don't know if we can have any effect on. Is anytime there's any kind of breakthrough anywhere, like the senolytic drugs that just came out a few days ago that destroy senescent cells, the news articles are always like, cure for aging found. It's like the whole thing is done, and that builds up kind of like a boom and bust expectation of people that they clickbait they click the clickbait, and it's like, oh, this has minor results somewhere in mice when the article said like you're not going to die. So it's like, that certainly doesn't help to have that seesaw every day in the news. But then again, it's in the public consciousness, so maybe it's no press is bad press. I don't know.
That's very true. I did want to take a moment to say hi to Michael. He's been with us now for a little while, and I just wanted to see if Michael wanted to say hi, introduce himself. He had a sign that he wanted to hold up.
I don't. My partner and I will be printing out signs and getting them to Eric later. Oh, can you not see me?
I can see.
Okay, great. For a moment, it looked like my camera was off. Yeah, I mean, I'm a proponent of indefinite life extension. I mean, currently we're discussing a lot of issues with consciousness and uploading, and I've had that come up a few times. I mean, I see it all over the place. People are like, oh, it's got to be, uploading, and aren't these people pushing for life extension, rather batty because they expect to be uploaded to computer chips? But it's good to see that there's a bunch of people who, still are a little bit more cautious about that. I mean, I know I am. I'm not convinced by the functionalist account of the philosophy of mind, and even if I was, I would still want to be careful about uploading. But yeah, and I mean, the thing is, currently I'm doing biomedical engineering up here at the university. Well, I just finished a master's in another area. I'm starting in biomedical engineering, and yeah, I mean, I talk with these folks, and yeah, everyone that I've spoken to sees, tackling aging as something that's doable. But as the few times that people will come up with uploading, most of the researchers are like, oh, this is, we're not really, that's kind of absurd. But so I think there's a lot of support even outside the transhumanist community from people who do biomedical engineering and gerontology, to think that aging is something that we can actually fight against at the biological level, and so it's an easier argument to make.
Yeah. That's why it's important for when we launched the crowdfunding initiative, Lifespan.io, it was very important for me to have people like Sens and people like David Sinclair at Harvard, so it's like all sides coming together, like this is legitimate, this is real, and like let's pull together this somewhat diverse camps of people into just a team that's like we want to live healthier. So
yeah, there was actually a conference put on by the BC or Life Extension BC, which is Lifespan BC over in Vancouver, which is just across the Juan de Fuca Strait from where I live, and yeah, a lot of researchers from different areas came in. There were cancer researchers from the Provincial Cancer Research Group. There were Aubrey de Grey was there, of course, a number of other people, and what they all agreed upon was that there needs to be sort of this coming together, because right now the way that funding works is it's kind of siloed. So the cancer researchers were saying, yes, we need funding to attack problems in cancer, but if you look at, and you'll have to pardon me because I'm not a cancer specialist, but the fact of the matter is, as you get older, your risk for cancer increases. So wouldn't it be great if, instead of just trying to deal with the end symptom of aging, we actually attack it at the root? And with all of these different with funding siloed for all of these different individual cancers that all have this one underlying root issue being aging, like, it would be great if there could be more integration. And I've heard that several times now whenever I talk to researchers. They're like, yeah, this aging is, actually one of the root, I wish I had the word, but one of the root issues. So if we could actually bring together a diverse group of researchers that are working on other areas who recognize this, that's something that could allow us, to sort of tackle the problem at the root.
Yeah, that's why there's actually a big movement now amongst researchers to get officially aging reclassified as a disease, because just that classification kind of changes the way that government funding dollars can be funneled and that sort of thing. So.
Hold on a second. Let's back up here. If you're saying the government should be in control of anti-aging research.
No, it's just that when you apply, like if you're a researcher and you're like applying for grants right now, like Michael is saying, it's kind of, you have to apply for like a very specific thing. Like we're trying to do like this kind of cancer thing and try to get that, right? So where if there was a reclassification where aging itself was a disease that you could then apply for grant money for, it basically makes it much easier for researchers to get additional funding to attack the core reason. So that's what we're saying.
A really great point. I just want to take a moment to say hi to Tom.
Hi.
Tom, with us. How you doing? And see if you had a sign you wanted to hold up, or if you wanted to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you support life extension.
Well, I believe in trying to live as long as possible. I believe I have a lot to contribute to a future society. I think that you saw that in my notes. While I'm here, before I might get interrupted or something else comes up, I just wanted to mention that I had talked to I guess a biochemist or whatever in Berkeley one time, and I told him, why aren't you guys examining the redwoods, since they are going to about 3,000 years old? They've got a really good DNA repair system you guys need to be looking at, and examining that and seeing how you can use that in the animal kingdom, because it's all DNA, And he said, excellent idea. He says that they haven't been looking there, but they really need to be looking at that. And they already know how to extend life in mice already, and they found out it's in the telomeres, which is at the end of the known, whatever. So if they worried about having cancer when they running into that when they extend the telomeres, so I'm saying, well, go ahead and go over to the redwoods, see what the redwood's doing, apply that to the animal cell, when you get the technology to be able to do that at will, and then that might just solve the problem right there. And we're very, very close, because they're already into the rodents already, which is just a step away from mammals. Once they get into mammals, it's we're very close actually to maybe doubling the lifespan right now.
There's something that's I know going on right now that's related is, I think George Church's lab is running some kind of comparative study where basically they're looking at all animals that are outliers for lifespan versus body mass, because usually there's like a correlation, the bigger you are, the more you live, but then there's creatures like the naked mole rat and the bowhead whale that are outliers. So they're doing some comparative analysis on that to see if anything can be applicable to human cells. So.
Great. Well, you guys, we're probably going to have to wrap this up very shortly. Thank you all for joining us. If you have any books, websites, initiatives, events that you want to give a last final plug for, please go ahead and do that right now.
Okay, the Oregon Cryonics open house on the 28th, Saturday at noon at the lab.
Excellent. Keith, did you want to hit us one more time with information? Because it sounds like you've got a lot of great stuff going on.
Yeah, so the website that we're going to launch, hopefully in the next few months when we get our initial campaigns in order, will be lifespan.io, which will basically be a crowdfunding hub. I'll put it in the... eventually, I want to make it much more than that, kind of like a hub for... If anyone's familiar with Represent Us, they were a group that was trying to get Citizens United overturned in the U.S. They had a really good, interesting website that kind of incentivized people for sharing the message and pulling them in and getting people informed. So I would like to kind of add those components too. So it's like crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, and community building to actually mobilize to be able to do calls to action. So that's what I'd like to do. But you know, we'll be launching hopefully in a few months, so we need people to spread the word, or if anyone has any particular skills, you know, video editing, PR, IT person, Nicholas, you know, anyone that wants to help out, feel free to contact me, because I'm sure we'd love people to help out, and that would be great. So
I'll follow up with you, Keith. I'd love to help out, and my expertise is PR and marketing. And video editing, actually.
Awesome.
Anybody else? Michael, do you have anything you want to close with?
I have nothing that I would. I mean, I am sure you're all aware of the research that's being done out there, and I don't have anything in particular that I want to draw people's attention to right now. I mean, what am I going to do? Mention Wake or like Sens or something? Everyone here knows about that, and I don't have anything in particular that I'm working on.
Okay. Anybody else? Nicholas?
Yeah, I'd like to say one thing. Since I think it's so important to kind of move the tide in our direction, it's that in educated populations in first world countries, populations tend to level out, and that's like that's a really important key point that I like to make sure that like I always bring up when people talk about overpopulation. And that's all.
I just want to quickly respond to that. What we're also going to do is create a series of YouTube videos, like we talked about earlier, that each take upon like one topic like that. So if people want to also help as kind of an adjunct to this lifespan.io thing, I have the YouTube channel set up. We're writing the script. So if you're interested in that, maybe be a guest speaker to talk about a topic or something like that, please let me know.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
I'll plug my Eternal Life fan club.
Oh, one more thing. Spay and neuter your humans for population control.
So Eternal Life fan club. Yeah, I'm the founder of the Eternal Life fan club. You can find it on YouTube and Facebook at /Eternal Life fan or eternallifefanclub.com, and it's just a bunch of blogs about living forever. I'm trying to motivate people and get people together in support of this indefinite life extension.
Great. See you in the future.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to log out now. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care.
Perfect.